Chapter 144. Yang Chung had already guessed that things wouldn't end so easily, but he didn't expect Lin Ruoshi to ask to see him so soon, and she even brought Zhao Hongyan along. He couldn't help but feel uneasy. Although nothing really happened between him and Zhao Hongyan, they had kissed and hugged. He couldn't just wipe his mouth and say that nothing happened, right? He gave the nervous Zhao Hongyan a comforting smile, and the two left the scene together. As for the Yu brothers, although they were gritting their teeth in anger, they couldn't do anything about it. 5 minutes later, Yang Chung brought Zhao Hongyan to the CEO's office on the top floor. It was Yang Cheng's second time coming to this place. Although Zhao Hongyan had been in Yulei for more than 3 years, she had never been here before. Although there were still traces of tears on her face, she couldn't care less at this moment and looked around curiously. "Don't be nervous, just sit there." Lin Ruoshi calmly walked over from the water dispenser at the side of the office. In her hand was a glass filled with steaming hot green tea. The color was delicate, and the fragrance assailed her nostrils. Even from afar, she could smell the natural aroma of tea. Before Lin Ruoshi could put the teacup on the mahogany coffee table in front of the sofa, Yang Chung smiled and stepped forward to take it. "How can I? The CEO personally made the tea. I'll do it myself." Lin Ruoshi ignored him and walked straight past Yang Chun, causing him to miss his target. She walked straight to Zhao Hongyan and smiled at her. Her smile was like a sunny day after the snow had cleared up and the flowers bloomed in spring. "This is this year's new West Lake Longjing tea. You're someone who knows tea, so I gave it to you to drink. I wouldn't be willing to give it to just anyone." Lin Ruoshi winked at Zhao Hongyan and put the teacup in front of her. Zhao Hongyan was flattered and stood up. Her pretty face was flushed, and it wasn't clear if she was excited or shy. "General Lin, you're too polite. I'll be embarrassed." This scene made Yang Chung a little depressed. Why couldn't this woman smile brightly at her husband? Lin Ruoshi walked lightly back to her seat and sat down leisurely. She didn't seem to be in a hurry to ask what happened today. Instead, she looked at Zhao Hongyan and asked, "Hongyan, if I remember correctly, you've been in the company for more than 3 years, right?" Zhao Hongyan was sitting on the soft sofa. When she heard Lin Ruoshi's question, she recalled how Lin Ruoshi called her a tea lover. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. "Boss Lin, you know me? As long as you're an employee of the headquarters, I know everyone. Although I can't communicate with you often because of work, as long as you're my employee, I'll recognize you," Lin Ruoshi said softly. Not only Zhao Hongyan, but Yang Chung, who had just sat down, was also stunned. One had to know that there were at least 400 to 500 employees in the headquarters of Yulei International. Under the circumstances that they almost didn't interact with each other, Lin Ruoshi actually recognized all of them. Looking at the way she treated Zhao Hongyan today, it didn't seem like she was talking nonsense. It seemed that to be able to control such a fashionable aircraft carrier at such a young age, this woman's inner thoughts were far more terrifying than imagined. Zhao Hongyan was obviously very excited. Like most of the other female employees, she also had feelings of admiration for Lin Ruoshi. At this moment, when she realized that her idol actually knew her name and knew some of her background, she was like an excited bird. Her gloomy mood was swept away, and she smiled. "I really didn't expect General Lin to recognize small employees like us. It seems that nothing in the company can be hidden from General Lin. You're a little special. Actually, I've seen you before you entered the company," Lin Ruoshi said. "Before I entered the company?" Zhao Hongyan obviously couldn't remember. Lin Ruoshi hesitated for a moment, then said in a clear voice, "Your father, Mr. Zhao, makes delicious glutinous rice balls. I used to buy them often." Zhao Hongyan revealed a look of realization, but at the same time, she felt that it was unbelievable. "General Lin, you like to eat glutinous rice balls?" She didn't expect that the elegant and refined female CEO would like that kind of snack. "Your family runs a glutinous rice ball shop?" Yang Chung also asked in surprise. Zhao Hongyan nodded and said with a little pride, "Our family's glutinous rice ball shop has been passed down for several generations. The taste is very authentic, and it can be considered as a long-established glutinous rice ball shop." Mr. Zhao is also a master of traditional tea art. I've drunk the Huangshan Malfoam and Biluakun that he brewed. His techniques and skills are the most orthodox tea ceremony. This is actually almost extinct in Huaxia, but it's preserved in Japan that's more complete. It's a pity that people nowadays only pay attention to those superficial tea arts and don't know how to appreciate the most authentic tea ceremony. Lin Ruoxi said with admiration and regret. Zhao Hongyan became more and more excited. I really didn't expect General Lin to know so much about our family. He even knows about my father. That was already many years ago. Speaking of which, I'm 2 years younger than you. When I went to buy glutinous rice balls, I was still in high school. Because my high school was very close to your family's glutinous rice ball shop, I often went there. After the rice balls were cooked, your father would even make tea for me. Occasionally, I would see you helping out in the shop. But I'm sure you don't remember it, but I've always remembered the scene in your shop. I think your family is very happy. Father, mother, daughter, boy, that should be your brother. They all helped to make and sell glutinous rice balls in the same shop. It was a happy and harmonious life. It felt very good. Lin Ruoxi's eyes revealed a little yearning, and her words were soft and sincere. Zhao Hongyan also felt a little nostalgic. She smiled and said, "Yeah, I was still in college at that time, so I would help out in the shop when I had time. Later on, I didn't go much when I started working. In fact, I always complained about my father at that time. I clearly didn't know how to make glutinous rice balls, but he insisted that I learn. Now that I think about it, I'm quite happy." Listening to the two women talking one after another, Yang Qing couldn't help but admire Lin Ruoxi's conversational skills. At this moment, Zhao Hongyan had obviously let go of her tense nerves and began to talk to him. "How's old Mr. Zhao recently?" Lin Ruoxi asked. Zhao Hongyan's originally bright and beautiful face showed a touch of sadness. She forced a smile and said, "Not very good. He has been hospitalized since last year." "Hospitalized?" Lin Ruoxi thought about it. "Can you tell me more about it? I haven't seen him for a long time." Zhao Hongyan picked up the teacup on the table and took 2 sips of the hot tea. Then she said, "My father was found to have kidney failure. He has been doing dialysis treatment. His health is very bad. Because of that, the family business has been handed over to my brother, and the business is not doing well." "I'm sorry," Lin Ruoxi said apologetically and subconsciously looked at Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng saw it and spread out his hands, indicating that he didn't know about it before. He didn't mean to let her ask such a sad topic. Lin Ruoxi thought about it and asked, "Hongyan, was the person on the first floor today your husband?" "Yes, General Lin." Zhao Hongyan nodded sadly. "What was the reason why he did that?" Zhao Hongyan sighed and told what happened in the bar last night. But naturally, she hid the part where she was harassed by Yu Hui. Although it wasn't her fault, it was also disgraceful. After listening to it, Lin Ruoxi asked Yang Cheng, "Yang Cheng, is that true?" Yang Cheng nodded, of course. "But why did you kiss Hongyan?" Lin Ruoxi immediately asked again. In fact, it was kiss, but Lin Ruoxi was ashamed to say that word. Yang Cheng was speechless for a while, and Zhao Hongyan beside him also blushed. Being asked such a question in front of her face, she felt her face burning, but at the same time, she was looking forward to how Yang Cheng would answer. Lin Ruoxi's eyes were as cold as a scalpel that cut open a person's heart, as if telling Yang Cheng, "Don't lie to me." Obviously, whether it was official or private, Yang Cheng kissed Zhao Hongyan in front of everyone, which made Lin Ruoxi very dissatisfied, but she didn't show it too excitedly. Yang Cheng smiled embarrassedly. "That you guy insisted that I have that relationship with his wife. I said it's nothing, but he didn't believe me. He was so determined to give me a woman. I can't say that I really don't want her, right? Isn't that a blow to Hongyan's self-confidence? A beautiful woman. Her husband doesn't want her, and I don't want her either. It's so hurtful." "So you kissed her. Have you ever thought that if everyone saw that scene, what would happen to the two of you in the future?" Lin Ruoxi was going crazy. This man actually opened his mouth with such a shameless reason. Yang Cheng looked at Zhao Hongyan, who was beside him, whose face was so red that juice was about to drip out. He rubbed the back of his head. "What else can I do? Her husband said that he wants to divorce her. I can't say that I want to divorce her, right? You. Lin Ruoshi had a belly full of anger, but she didn't know what to say. Yang Chung smiled mischievously. General Lin is so concerned about my love life. I'm really flattered. On behalf of my wife, I thank General Lin for his love. He did it on purpose. He deliberately angered me. Lin Ruoshi's hands were clenched into fists and trembled nonstop. If Zhao Hongyan wasn't here, she really wanted to pick up anything on the table and smash this man to death. Yang Chung, don't talk to General Lin like that. He's doing it for our own good, Zhao Hongyan suddenly advised, then looked at Lin Ruoshi with a complicated expression. General Lin, I think this is all my fault. I shouldn't have gone to the bar. I lied to my husband first, otherwise this wouldn't have happened. Yang Chung asked in confusion. I've always been curious. Why didn't you tell that guy that you were drinking with your colleagues at the bar? Zhao Hongyan was silent for a while, then said, Actually, you saw today. Yu Guang is a very conservative and upright person. In his eyes, places like bars, nightclubs, and KTVs are all so-called social vermin. Places where unrestrained men and women go. The Yu family isn't allowed in. Isn't his younger brother there as well? Yang Chung frowned. Zhao Hongyan smiled bitterly. Yu Hui is his biological younger brother, and I'm just his daughter-in-law. In the eyes of the Yu family, I'm just the daughter of a small shop owner with a lowly background. They're already doing me a favor by letting me marry into their family. How can they tolerate me going to nightclubs? Yang Chung couldn't help but find it funny. I didn't expect such people to exist in this society. Why do I feel like we've regressed to a feudal society? Yeah, when I first married him, I wasn't used to it as well. I felt like I was an ascetic monk. Whenever I returned home, I would feel suffocated by the atmosphere. I've gotten better after a year, but I'm always afraid of going home. I feel like I can't get along with his family. There are too many things between us, Zhao Hongyan said dejectedly. Then why did you still marry him? Lin Ruoshi rolled her eyes at Yang Chung. It's because of your father, right? From what I know, kidney dialysis isn't cheap. Zhao Hongyan was silent and nodded with difficulty. Yes, my father and Yu Guang's father are friends. When my father first went to the hospital, even though there was insurance to cover a certain amount, it still wasn't enough. At the time, Yu Guang's mother took a liking to me and wanted me to be their daughter-in-law. Maybe other families didn't want their daughters to marry Yu Guang, and their family didn't like me because I wasn't good-looking. In the end, they chose me and promised me to pay for most of my father's medical expenses. The truth of the matter was simple and tragic. A young and beautiful woman married an old-fashioned, stubborn man for the sake of her father's medical expenses. Do you love him? Lin Ruoshi suddenly asked. Zhao Hongyan was slightly stunned before she remembered who she was asking about. She smiled sadly and said, General Lin, Yu Guang and I have never dated. We didn't even communicate before I married him. I don't understand him, and he doesn't trust me. So how could I love him? A marriage without love? Lin Ruoshi quietly glanced at Yang Chung. Coincidentally, Yang Chung was also looking at her. Lin Ruoshi's heart raced. She quickly looked away and asked Zhao Hongyan, What do you plan to do now? Zhao Hongyan shook her head blankly. I don't know. Actually, I thought about divorcing Yu Guang a long time ago. We're from different worlds. But what about your father's illness? Asked Lin Ruoshi. Zhao Hongyan bit her lip. I discussed it with my younger brother. We'll mortgage our family shop and get a loan from the bank. We should be able to get a few 100,000 yuan. That should be enough for my father's kidney transplant. If I said I'd give you 5 years of salary and bonus in advance, and you'd work here for 10 years, would you be able to accept it? Asked Lin Ruoshi. Zhao Hongyan suddenly raised her head. Her watery eyes were filled with disbelief and surprise. General Lin, you're saying Lin Ruoshi turned around and pressed a red button on the desk. She spoke into a delicate microphone. Will you come in for a second? Chapter 145. Wu Yu, who was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, quickly walked into the office with a PDA and a briefcase. She didn't even look at Yang Chung and Zhao Hongyan. She directly bowed to Lin Ruoshi and asked, General Lin, what can I do for you? Help me calculate Zhao Hongyan's performance for the past 3 years and her salary for the past 3 years. Make a comparison with the PR department as a whole. Wu Yu immediately opened her notebook. Her slender fingers quickly typed on the keyboard and said, Zhao Hongyan's performance for the past 3 years is 56 million, 73 million, and 1 million respectively. The average salary and bonus is about 200,000 each year. She is considered to be above average in the PR department. Lin Ruoshi nodded. Help me draft a contract. Zhao Hongyan's salary and bonus for the next 10 years will be halved. The company will advance 5 million as a special fund to her account in advance. The specific restrictions are up to you. Wu Yu frowned. President, please allow me to express my opinion. What? You don't agree? Lin Ruoshi asked. Yes, as a PR personnel, 10 years is too long. Few people can continuously increase or maintain the number of orders, especially young women. As they grow older, there will obviously be a decline in the number of orders. This kind of contract is too risky, Wu Yu calmly said. Without waiting for Lin Ruoshi to speak, Yang Cheng couldn't stand it anymore. He couldn't help but laugh. I say, is your brain made of a machine? I used to think that your body was bad, but it turns out that you are also missing a piece of your brain. The company isn't yours, and the money isn't spent by you. Is 5 million a lot for this company? If it wasn't urgent, would she sign a contract for 10 years like selling herself? Yang Cheng, don't say anymore. What Secretary Wu said is also the truth. Zhao Hongyan hurriedly stopped. Although she was touched by Yang Cheng's words, she didn't want to make things difficult for Lin Ruoshi. Wu Yu glanced at Yang Cheng coldly. I'm just stating the facts. I'm only considering the interests of the company and the president. Enough. Lin Ruoshi looked at the two of them with a headache and sighed. Wu Yu, just do as I say. I trust Hongyan. Wu Yu didn't say anything more this time. She responded and left. Zhao Hongyan stood up with red eyes and solemnly bowed to Lin Ruoshi. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I also hope to be able to eat Mr. Zhao's glutinous rice balls in the future. Lin Ruoshi smiled and said, You must have a lot of things to do today, so you don't have to go to work. If the Yu family refuses to let go or wants to blow things up, you can contact me. I'll get a lawyer to help you solve these problems. When Zhao Hongyan held back her tears and left the office, she took a deep look at Lin Ruoshi. The emotions contained in her eyes could only be understood by the person involved. Lin Ruoshi saw that Yang Cheng was still standing in the office and looking at her with a faint smile, which made her feel very uncomfortable. She tried to cover up and asked, Is there anything else? I just didn't expect our little Ruoshi to have such an amiable side. You were very cute today and deserve to be praised. Yang Cheng said with a smile. If you want to gossip, then please leave as soon as possible. Don't disturb my work. Lin Ruoshi didn't bother to pay attention to him and turned to look at the computer screen. Yang Cheng shrugged indifferently and turned to leave. But after a few steps, Lin Ruoshi called him from behind. Yang Cheng. What? You don't want me to go? Yang Cheng turned back. Will marriages without love end like them? Lin Ruoshi lowered her head and asked as if she was talking to herself. Yang Cheng was stunned. After thinking for a while, he smiled evilly and said, No, at least we won't. If Ruoshi baby wants to go to a nightclub or a bar, just call me. I'm very open. If you want to play, let's play together. Get out. After leaving the CEO's office, Yang Cheng didn't go straight to work. So many things had happened just now. If he went to the PR department, he would definitely be bombarded with questions. Yang Cheng didn't want to suffer, so he decided to wait until tomorrow when everyone's interest had waned. He would be leaving Zhonghai for a while on Wednesday, and what Yang Cheng was thinking at the moment was that he should go and meet Rose. This woman who was willing to be his lover. It had been a while since he last saw her. Although he knew that Rose would be very busy during this period of time. After all, it wouldn't be easy to deal with the stragglers of West Union society. But the main reason was that he didn't have much time to spare for her, and the guilt he felt towards Rose had been increasing. Driving to Rose Bar, the bar was still quiet and empty during the day. A few waiters were dozing off by the table. When they saw Yang Cheng enter, they immediately woke up and greeted him. Yang Cheng waved at them and walked straight to the back corridor. When he arrived at the center of the corridor, he found a few Red Thorns Society bodyguards guarding there. On the wall of the corridor, a door had been moved. That door was usually one with the wall, so it was hard to recognize. Yang Cheng only discovered it today. When the bodyguards saw Yang Cheng walk over, they immediately shouted, "Hello, Brother Yang." Yang Cheng pointed at the dark passage behind the door. "What's inside?" A bodyguard replied, "It's a basement that the CEO dug last year to deal with the brothers and enemies who committed crimes. This deal naturally wouldn't be anything good. To put it bluntly, it was a place to kill, extort confessions, and interrogate people." Yang Cheng didn't find it strange, but he wasn't too satisfied with Qiang Wei's choice of place. It was so close to her bedroom, and she kept killing people inside. Being energy was a bit too heavy. "Brother Yang, do you want to go in? You don't need to report to the CEO whenever you want. The CEO has instructed." A bodyguard asked attentively. Yang Cheng waved his hand. "No need. There's no point in killing people." Yang Cheng was afraid that once he saw the bloody scene, his brain would go haywire again. At that time, he would have to let Qiang Wei knock him out again. Wasn't that pure self-torture? The bodyguards didn't think too much about it. Killing people was indeed not an interesting scene, so they nodded in agreement. But at this moment, a petite figure in white suddenly ran out of the passage. She covered her face with one hand and lowered her head. Like a light breeze, she rushed out of the door and ran out of the corridor while crying. Although it was only a blink of an eye, Yang Cheng still clearly saw who the girl was. It was the little girl, Chen Rong. Seeing Chen Rong run away, crying without even seeing herself, Yang Cheng wondered and asked the bodyguard, "What's wrong with Rong Rong?" The bodyguard forced a smile and said, "Today, the CEO brought Miss Chan down to let Miss Chan kill a few people from West Union Society." Yang Cheng was silent. Although he knew that Qiang Wei had the intention to train Chen Rong, he didn't expect that she would have to kill people so quickly. To let a girl who had just come out of the mountains, who was inexperienced in the world, pick up a weapon and kill a living person, even if she knew that the other party wasn't a good person, this was definitely something that challenged her bottom line. After all, after killing people, you have to walk on this road of no return. His mind was in a mess. Yang Cheng thought about whether it was right or wrong for him to bring Chen Rong here. Did he let down that young man, Chun Bo, who had just left his job? After smoking a cigarette in the corridor, Rose walked out of the passageway. She was wearing a long black dress with tassels, and her fair skin looked especially smooth and bright. She was like the queen of a night who walked out of the black race, graceful and luxurious. Qiang Wei's face was slightly tired, but when she saw Yang Cheng standing at the door, her face immediately lit up. She quickly rushed forward and hugged Yang Cheng, completely disregarding the presence of the surrounding subordinates, and kissed Yang Cheng on the lips. "Did you miss me?" Qiang Wei asked while hugging Yang Cheng's neck. Yang Cheng nodded. "I just finished smoking. Don't kiss me, it smells bad." The smell of smoke is better than the smell of blood. Qiang Wei's eyes revealed a bit of loneliness and vicissitudes. Yang Cheng reached out and stroked Qiang Wei's soft long hair. "Even you aren't completely immune to blood. Letting Rong Rong participate so quickly, isn't it too harsh?" At this time, the surrounding subordinates and bodyguards had already left, leaving the couple some private space. The hallway was empty. Qiang Wei smiled helplessly. "I asked her many times, and she answered me with certainty. She is willing to walk on this road. But killing people now is better than killing people in the future. When a person doesn't understand the world very well, their awareness of the so-called rules is also at its weakest. If they wait a few years, it will be even harder for Rong Rong to do it. Right now, she will only feel disgusted and afraid of killing people, but after a few years, she will feel that it is against human relations, against society's morals. At that time, killing people will make her even more depressed." Qiang Wei explained. Yang Cheng frowned. "She's already killed them?" "Killed them 3. They were all small bosses of the West Union Society. I asked her to get at least 3 bullets on each of them, and she did it, which surprised me," Qiang Wei said lightly. Yang Cheng sighed. "Congratulations, there is hope for your successor." Qiang Wei caressed Yang Cheng's face. "Hubby, do you think I'm very cruel, very selfish?" "Sometimes, even I feel that I'm very cruel. Just now, I even felt that Rong Rong hated me for a moment, I can only say that what you've done is still far from the standard of cruelty in my heart. As for Rong Rong hating you, that is normal. Otherwise, she would really be a she-devil. Yang Cheng said truthfully. She really is very outstanding. She looks very weak, but her will grows very quickly, and she will gradually become stronger than anyone else. She is very smart and can understand a lot of things without me saying them. More importantly, she is very clear about what she wants, and when it comes to important decisions, she will not hesitate. Only this kind of person can lead a gang to continue forward. Once Yang Chun thought of Chun Rong, who is as soft as a daffodil, becoming an underworld boss in the future, he felt a headache. He forcefully hugged Rose's soft body and pressed her against the wall, feeling the captivating elasticity of her curvy body. Xiangwei, baby, let's not talk about this. I have to go to Hong Kong on business the day after tomorrow. It might be a week, and today I came to say goodbye to you. Xiangwei was already a ripe peach. Being teased by her lover like this, she immediately felt something and panted, "Not here. Go to the room. Go to your room after we're done here." Yang Cheng smiled naughtily and began to untie the ribbon of Xiangwei's long dress, while using his erect lower body to push between Xiangwei's legs. Feeling the lump of flesh on her chest being kneaded by a large hand, Xiangwei's body began to tremble. But my body still smells of blood. I'm going to take a shower. I just like the smell of blood on your body. Yang Cheng growled hoarsely and bit Xiangwei's plump red lips. Not long after, there was the lingering sound of men and women in the corridor, some low and some high. Chapter 146. After a day, it was finally Wednesday. Yang Cheng had no choice but to welcome the day of his business trip. During breakfast in the morning, Lin Ruoshi said a few words, which was rare. However, it was nothing more than telling him about the work matters after he arrived. As for nice words like "be careful" and "I wish you success," this woman still wouldn't say them. Previously, Lin Ruoshi's secretary, Wu Yu, had arranged for the plane to take off at 9:30 in the morning. It would arrive in Hong Kong around lunchtime, and they would be received by the Hong Kong Mian Group. As for Zheng Xinlin, after knowing that Lin Ruoshi wouldn't be going in person, he temporarily asked Lu Tao, the vice president of Chonglin Media, to go with her. Meanwhile, he stayed in Zhonghai and waited for the Muyun Group to come to Zhonghai to sign the contract, just like Lin Ruoshi. He even called it unconditional trust. This change made Yang Chun clench his teeth in anger. This senior of his was obviously picking a fight with him. Wherever Lin Ruoshi was, he would be there too. How could he do this? Wasn't he sticking to her like a piece of candy? However, Yang Cheng wasn't a CEO, and he didn't have the guts to tell Lin Ruoshi that he had to decide not to go at the last minute. Otherwise, that girl's piercingly cold eyes could really freeze him to death. Therefore, he had to bite the bullet and go. Some people said that there were no men who were afraid of their wives in this world, only men who loved their wives. Yang Cheng felt that this was definitely the self-comfort of men who were afraid of their wives. After parking the car in the parking lot of the airport, Yang Cheng dragged a small leather suitcase and went all the way to the departure hall. Due to the excellent visibility, Yang Cheng easily found Mo Qianni, who had arrived earlier than him, in the brightly lit airport hall. She was wearing a light pink sweater, a white suit jacket, and a blue and white chiffon skirt. Below her fair and slender legs were red high-heeled sandals. Her waist-length hair was cut a little shorter, and she wore a pair of light-colored large-framed sunglasses. Even though half of her pretty face was covered, she still attracted a lot of men's gazes as she stood beside the resting area. For some women, you only needed to look at her temperament to recognize her beauty. This was also the reason why Yang Cheng could recognize her at a glance. "Good morning, Minister Mo. Have you eaten?" Yang Cheng nonchalantly greeted her and walked toward Mo Qianni. Mo Qianni glanced at him. Under the sunglasses, her watery eyes could not be seen. She nodded calmly and did not answer. Yang Cheng breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Mo Qianni was just cold to him. She did not mean to target him. Thinking about it, this time they were going to Hong Kong to discuss business. They couldn't mess up the business because of personal feelings. That was not Mo Chinny style. At this time, a slightly short and fat middle-aged man walked up from an inconspicuous corner. He was smiling like a Mithriya Buddha. He was wearing a light gray suit and a red tie. He reached out a hand to Yang Chung. "This must be Mr. Yang. I am Lu Tao from Chonglin Media. I have been waiting for a long time." Yang Chung simply shook hands with him. "I am not a plane. Why are you waiting for me?" Lu Tao still wanted to say a few polite words, but he was not angry when Yang Chung stopped him. "Mr. Yang is a straightforward person. Then I will not be polite. I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation in Hong Kong this time." Mo Chinny looked at them from the side. She frowned, but she did not say anything. Lu Tao also brought a young female assistant with him. She looked ordinary, but had a thin waist and a round butt. Because there was still some time before entering the waiting room, the two of them left to go somewhere else. As for what exactly they were going to do, only they themselves knew. After the two of them left, Mo Chinny suddenly said to Yang Chung, "You shouldn't talk to Lu Tao like that. This time, Chonglin Media is a partner. Even if you don't like the people around Zhang Xinlin because of personal feelings, you still have to maintain etiquette on the scene." Yang Chung sat on a soft chair and smiled. "Just like how you treat me. I don't understand what you were talking about." Mo Chinny quickly turned her head away. "Let me tell you this. I don't care about cooperation at all. I just want that Zhang to F***ck off. But others care. This cooperation is related to the future status of Yulei, Chonglin, and Hong Kong's media group in the whole country, and even the world." Mo Chinny said discontentedly. Yang Chung nodded. "That's right. You know it, I know it, and Zhang Xinli knows it even more. So, even if our personal grudges make us reject each other, the path for the big picture has already been paved, and nothing will change because of our likes and dislikes. Anyway, I'm already in conflict with that Zhang, so why should I pretend that nothing is wrong? If I treat his people politely, they will only think that I'm cheating. Don't you think so, Miss Mo?" Mo Chinny did not say anything. She was thinking about Yang Cheng's point of view. It seemed to make sense, but of course she would not say it out. She could only snort coldly and ignore Yang Chung again. After a quarter of an hour, Lu Tao and his assistant walked back slowly. The female assistant's face, with a few pimples, was still a little flushed. She seemed to have just sprayed a lot of perfume on her body, and the smell was especially strong. Mo Chinny had seen this kind of thing many times, so she did not pay much attention to it. She just stood a little further away. Yang Chung came to Lu Tao's side and said with a smile, "Boss Lu, you disarmed yourself too fast. Without the time for preparation and tidying up, the time you take to fire a gun is no different from firing a bullet from a machine gun." Lu Tao was poked in his sore spot, and a trace of displeasure flashed across his face. However, years of ups and downs in the business world had trained him to be a smiling tiger. Plus, before the trip, Zhang Xinlin had reminded him not to lower himself to the level of this man, called Yang Chung. So, he immediately laughed it off and said, "How can I be as good as a young man like Mr. Yang? I'm old and can't do it anymore." After chatting for a while, the four of them heard the broadcast and began to go through the security check and into the departure lounge. After waiting for half an hour, the four of them began to board the plane. Yang Chung also deliberately took a look at Mo Chinny's seat number, and sure enough, it was the same as his. So, he smiled at the woman proudly. Mo Chinny also noticed it. She bit her lips and said nothing. After all, it was a business trip for a big company, and the tickets they bought were all business class. So, they took the business class passage to board the plane, and the four of them did not have to queue at all. When they were about to walk to the door of the plane, there was a plump and tall stewardess in a blue and white striped uniform standing in front of them. She had already bowed politely from afar and said softly, "Welcome." Yang Chung felt that the voice was a little familiar. He walked closer and took a closer look. Suddenly, he stopped and couldn't believe it. The beautiful air stewardess who was smiling warmly just a moment ago was also stunned on the spot. Her pair of beautiful eyes with curved eyelashes flashed with disbelief. There was also a hint of surprise and shyness. Her pink cherry mouth was open, and her fair face was dyed with a layer of pink. "My dear little Princess Anshin, are you playing a role?" Yangchen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The air stewardess in front of him was actually an Xian who he had a period of passionate entanglement with, and also had a trip to the police station. Ever since they parted, this woman had never contacted him again. He originally thought that she would be like the many women he had slept with in the past, and would never have anything to do with him again. He didn't expect that a rich girl like her would become a stewardess here. Anshin also came to herself, seeing the man who took away the most precious first time in her life. She had an inexplicable, wonderful feeling. After they parted, she thought that she had freely forgotten him. But now that they were face to face, Anshin suddenly had a strong impulse to go up and hug him. However, considering the situation, she just smiled and said, "Mr. Knight, let's go in first." When Mo Chinny, who was following behind Yang Chan, saw this scene, she could clearly feel the unclear relationship between these two. Seeing Yang Chan being unusually intimate with another beauty, she felt a wave of discomfort in her heart. She coldly snorted and quickly entered the cabin first, out of sight, out of mind. Lu Tao and his little secretary didn't think too much. Perhaps in their eyes, all men and women were possible. Seeing Mo Chinny's weird behavior, Anshin couldn't help giggling to Yang Chung. "Mr. Knight, it seems that you have a lot of princesses." Her? Yang Chung smiled bitterly. Even if she is a princess, she might be the princess of an enemy country. There were fewer people in the business class than expected. There were a total of more than 10 seats. But only 2 people were sitting except for Yang Chung and the other 3 people. The main reason was that there were many flights to Hong Kong. Speaking of traveling, it was also the off-season, so it was not surprising. What surprised Yang Chung was that Anshin was also the chief stewardess of the plane. She completed the safety broadcast before the takeoff in both Chinese and English. That was to say, she was not here for fun. She was a professional stewardess. After waiting for almost half an hour, the plane finally took off and flew straight into the sky. When she found that the business class was less than half of the passengers, Mo Chinny quickly moved her seat to the farthest corner from Yang Chung. It was obvious that she didn't want to talk to Yang Chung. As for Lu Tao and his little secretary, they sat in another hidden corner. They kissed each other and sometimes made some small movements, which made the little secretary blush. They were really in love with each other. Not long after, an Xian walked out of the workshop with the help of a trolley. She had a professional smile on her face as she served drinks to the 2 passengers in front of her. When she walked to the seat of Mo Chinny coldly ordered a glass of water and then closed her eyes and leaned against the chair to sleep. Lu Tao directly waved his hand, saying that he didn't want anything and continued to talk to his little sweetheart. Anshin walked to Yang Chung and still asked Yang Chung what he needed in a formal way. Yang Chung didn't say anything. He kept looking up and down at Anshin's exquisite figure wrapped in the stewardess uniform. The wild night in the hotel appeared in his mind, and he had a particularly hot impulse. The facts showed that the uniform was very tempting. "Pervert, don't stare at me like this. I have to work." Anshin blushed and whispered in a low voice. Yang Chung smiled and reached out to hold Anshin's white and soft hand. "Isn't your job to serve the passengers? I don't need drinks now. I need you. What should I do?" Being held by the hot hand, Anshin's heart was beating fast. She was sensitive. After the first craziness, she tasted the ecstasy for the first time. During this time, she had been suppressing the hot feelings in her heart. Although she could control herself well, the sudden appearance of Yang Chung at this moment made her feel uneasy again. A few ripples appeared in her watery eyes. An Xian bent down and whispered a few words into Yang Chen's ear. Immediately, her face blushed as she pulled the trolley back to the workshop as if she was running away from him. Yang Chen took a deep breath. Even though he had been through hundreds of battles, he couldn't help but gulp when he heard what the little vixen said. He was excited. Chapter 147. After a torturous 15 minutes, the plane finally ushered in a fluctuation caused by high-altitude airflow. The seatbelt light in the plane lit up, and the voice broadcast asked all passengers to return to their seats, fasten their seatbelts, and not walk around. Yang Chung smiled slightly, unfastened his seatbelt, quietly stood up, quietly opened the curtain at the back of the business class cabin, and walked in. Mo Chinny, who had been pretending to sleep, heard the noise and silently watched the scene. A hint of doubt flashed through her eyes, but she did not say anything and then closed her eyes again. In order to save space in the plane, the toilet of the plane was generally unisex, unless it was a specially designed luxury plane. At this moment, Yangqing very much appreciated the toilet design of the plane, because in this way, he did not have to feel uncomfortable entering the women's toilet. Because it was a special period of time when the plane was fluctuating, of course, no one was using the toilet. After Yang Cheng quickly flashed in, he locked the toilet door. In less than a minute, the toilet door was knocked by someone outside. Knock, knock, knock. After 3 slow knocks, Yang Cheng opened the door. The delicate body in the light blue uniform was like a light and soft cotton candy, and the moment the door opened, she threw herself into Yang Cheng's arms. The toilet space on the plane was so small that it could only accommodate 5 or 6 people standing at the same time. At this moment, the two of them opened their bodies and hugged each other, and it seemed particularly crowded. After Yang Cheng locked the toilet again, he hugged Anshin's soft waist with one hand and held her elastic round buttocks with the other hand and squeezed a few times, causing Anshin to let out a few uncontrollable moans. Be gentle, it hurts me. This kind of seductive tone was enough to make men go crazy. Yangqing opened his mouth and kissed the beauty's fragrant lips, and Anshin immediately began to respond enthusiastically. Although the two only had one night of entanglement, they understood each other a lot. Because that night was too memorable, the exchange of the two's bodies had been skillfully engraved in their minds. Anshin's delicate lips were squeezed into all kinds of shapes, and her mouth was also occupied by Yangqing's aggressive tongue. Moist and entangled, she could only let out moans of enjoyment. The weight of Anshin's body in Yangqing's arms seemed to be as light as a feather, and the hot and wet kiss continued. Yangqing directly pressed her against the toilet wall, and both of his legs wrapped around his strong waist. Like an octopus, Anshin's pair of jade arms hooked around Yangqing's neck and stroked Yangqing's back. Her slender and plump legs hooked around Yangqing's waist, and the black lace stockings that outlined the curve of her legs were breathtakingly beautiful. The pair of black, shiny diamond high heels were kicked to the ground by Anshin, and the 2 pink feet wrapped in black chiffon curled up, showing how tense their owner's body was at this moment. Soon, Yangqing used one hand to pull out the chest of Anshin's flight attendant uniform. The collar was pulled to the side, and after unbuttoning the 3 buttons of the white shirt inside, a violet curly bra was revealed. After Anshin's snow-white chest was set off by the purple bra, the strong visual impact made Yangqing temporarily dizzy. It's really hard to imagine. You're simply a gift from the Creator to me. Yangqing reached out his hand and grabbed an Xian's voluptuous mound. In his hand, that soft mound of flesh was pinched into various shapes. However, it was so soft that Yangqing didn't have the heart to use too much force, as if he would break it if he used too much force. Hearing the naked praise of the man she liked, Anshin's eyes were glowing, but her watery eyes seemed to be bursting with love. Yangqing's gentle caress made her gasp for breath. Finally, she couldn't help but move closer to Yangqing's ear and lightly nibbled on Yangqing's earlobe, exhaling a hot and wet fragrance. I like you to be a bit more brave. Do you dare? I'm just afraid you can't bear it. Pull out your spear, knight. Anshin smiled sweetly and suddenly reached down with one hand, grabbing onto Yangqing's already raised dragon horn. Receiving such a provocation, how could Yangqing bear it? The corner of his mouth revealed an evil smile, and suddenly released Anshin, who was pressed against the wall, and put her on the ground. Anshin's legs went soft, and she fell to the ground. Just as she was wondering what Yangqing meant, she saw Yangqing quickly remove the restraint on his lower body, revealing the ferocious thing inside. The terrifying weapon that suddenly appeared in front of her made Anshin's heart a little scared. She raised her head and looked at Yangqing pitifully. As a mature woman who had seen a lot of movies, of course she knew what it meant when a man pressed a woman down and used his mouth to kiss her. It's too big, and I don't have any experience. It won't work. How would you know if you don't try? After saying that, Yang Chung slightly pressed down on the woman's head, and Anshin, who was like an arrow on the bow, had no choice but to close her eyes and accept her fate as she opened her rosy lips. Yang Chung, who hadn't enjoyed this kind of treatment for more than half a year, let out a long sigh of relief. Although Anshin's technique was very rusty, and she didn't know how to please a man, but as long as he lowered his head and saw the blue flight attendant uniform and the beautiful face with proper makeup, and thought of such a woman doing this kind of service for him, the sense of accomplishment in his heart was much greater than his body. 10 minutes later, Anshin was almost out of breath, and her tears were full of grievance. Yang Chung also felt distressed. He picked up the woman and rewarded her with a kiss. He then pressed her against the wall and pulled down Anshin's uniform from behind, revealing the most mysterious part of her body. Anshin closed her eyes nervously and expectantly and slightly raised her buttocks, showing the extremely charming curve of her back. Although this was the first time she had done this kind of embarrassing posture, she, who had let go of all her reservations, felt that it was extremely exciting. At the moment when Yang Chung broke through the last obstacle from behind, he couldn't remember that the two of them were tens of thousands of feet high in the sky, in a narrow toilet of the plane, and there was nothing else between them except for the fusion of soul and flesh. After more than half an hour, the storm-like collision finally stopped. Anshin, who could no longer stand, fell softly in Yang Cheng's arms. Her face was like a red jade, and her clothes were messy. Like a pool of warm spring water, she panted and enjoyed the sweetness after passion. Yang Chung caressed Anshin's smooth thigh with one hand and asked, "Why are you a flight attendant?" "I've always been a stewardess," an XIN replied lazily. "Because I didn't want to follow the path my father had drawn for me. I became a stewardess before I graduated from university. Only by flying around on planes can I break free from the cage my father has placed on me." "Your father will agree?" "The president of this airline is one of my uncles. When he was young, he liked my mother very much, and he has doted on me since I was young. I said I wanted to be a flight attendant, and he arranged for me to come in. Even if my father wants to object, he can't do anything." Anshin smiled slyly. Yang Chung smiled, but this made sense. "What about your fiancé? Is he still pestering you?" Anshin shook her head. "I don't want to care about him. I told my father that if he forces me again, I will commit suicide. Maybe after seeing me do something crazy once, he's really afraid. Anyway, I'm still young, so I'll be a flight attendant for a few years first. In the future, maybe that annoying guy will marry another woman, and I won't have a headache anymore. I've just made a decision," Yang Chung said with a smile. Anshin revealed a bit of doubt. "What?" "Remember what I said at the police station last time? If we meet again, you have to give me a child." "What should we do this time?" Anshin was stunned and a bit panicked. "You can't really want me to give you a child, right?" "It's impossible. My father won't agree to me marrying you." "I didn't say I wanted to marry you," Yang Chung said with a smile. "I'm already married, and my wife is also very beautiful." "Then what do you mean? Are you playing with me?" Anshin was panting with rage. Hearing Yang Chung say that he had a wife, her heart felt uncomfortable. "I'm not playing with you," Yang Chung said seriously. "I found that I can no longer accept another man having you. You can either be my woman for the rest of your life, or else, whoever you dare to be with, I will kill that person." Anshin just wanted to say that Yang Chung was joking, but then she found that this man's eyes were so real. Although his words were so casual, but the certainty in his eyes made people have no choice but to believe that this was not a casual remark. He would really kill another man? "Don't be like this. I'm so scared." Anshin lowered her head and stammered. Yang Chung kissed her forehead, smiled, and said, "What's there to be afraid of? I'm not going to eat you. I'm just announcing your ownership. How can you be so domineering, depriving me of my life?" Anshin complained in a low voice. "There is no absolute fairness in this world. From the moment you set a trap in the bar that night to seduce me to go to the hotel to get a room, you have already determined today's cause and effect. You can think of me as a domineering, rude, vulgar, and malicious man. I don't care, but I can promise you that every word I say is from the bottom of my heart. I like you, so I want you to be my woman. If you doubt my ability, I don't mind killing the other men around you to prove everything, even your father." Yang Cheng said it very calmly, but it was full of madness, which deeply touched Anshin. After a long time, Anshin sighed. "You bad guy, what do you like about me?" "There is no reason to like a person. If you don't like a person, everything will be a reason." Anshin's eyes were a bit intoxicated. She pouted and said, "Do you say this to every woman?" "No, you're not necessarily the woman I love the most, but you're the first woman that I want to say this to." Yang Cheng said frankly, "If I become your woman, is it destined that I can only be a lover in the dark for the rest of my life? If you don't mind, you can sit in front of my wife and chat with her. I don't care. It depends on your ability." Yang Cheng smiled. And Xian reached out her warm and soft palm and touched Yang Chen's face. With misty eyes, she said, "Yang Chen, I don't know how to reject you anymore. Or perhaps I've really fallen, but I don't like the feeling of being taken over. Can you allow me to be willful for a while?" "What willful?" And Xian raised her index finger, pursed her lips, and said, "If we meet again within a year, it won't be you looking for me on purpose, and it won't be me looking for you on purpose either. If we meet again, I'll listen to everything you say. I'll be your lover, bear your children, and everything will belong to you." "What if we don't meet again?" Yang Cheng asked with a faint smile. In fact, this question was too simple for him. As long as he was willing, he could definitely find Anshin. As for whether it was intentional or not, who could say for sure? "If we don't meet," Anshin said a little sadly, "then we're not fated, but I will not be with other men for you. I am really afraid that you will kill someone." Women are always emotional. For Anshin, who has lacked security since childhood, she was more willing to believe in the so-called fate to give her the most steadfast affirmation. "Okay, I promise you, but you can't act shamelessly," Yang Cheng said with a smile. Anshin pouted and shyly rolled her eyes. "I've been ruined by you. Who else can I go with?" By the time the two of them were fully dressed, almost an hour had passed since the beginning. Anshin opened the door of the washroom and found that there were already several male and female passengers standing at the door, looking at her with dissatisfaction, obviously waiting to go to the washroom. Anshin had a smile at everyone embarrassedly and immediately ran back to the workroom. Just when a female passenger was about to enter the washroom, Yang Cheng came out of the washroom again. All the passengers were stunned. Men and women going to the washroom together. Seeing everyone looking at him strangely, Yang Cheng said loudly with dissatisfaction, "What the hell are you looking at? Men stand to pee, women sit. Is there a problem with going to the washroom together?" After that, he turned around and went back to business class. Only a few passengers were left, staring at the only toilet in the washroom. Chapter 148. Walking back to business class, Yang Chun was just about to sit down and take a break. Although this half an hour of making love with her made him very satisfied. In such a small area like the toilet, he spent most of the time standing and doing that kind of thing he loved to do, causing his back to ache. But right at this moment, two extremely cold gazes shot towards him from a corner. Yang Cheng shuddered and looked up. It was Mo Chieni who took off her sunglasses and glanced at him with a murderous look. Yang Cheng, who didn't know what was going on, smiled embarrassedly and sat down as if he was sitting on pins and needles. The flight was very peaceful. When the plane landed at Hong Kong International Airport at noon, the business class passengers got off the plane first. When they walked out of the cabin, Anshin, who was dressed neatly and as dignified as before, smiled sweetly at Yang Cheng. Her watery eyes were obviously filled with infinite reluctance, and she secretly blew a kiss to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng swallowed. He finally realized that this woman was definitely the reincarnation of a vixen. Seeing this scene, Mo Chieni snorted again and took the lead to walk out of the cabin. She strode away as if she didn't want to walk with Yang Cheng at all. Yang Cheng and Anshin blinked, and then helplessly followed Mo Chieni and Lu Tao. "I say, Miss Mo, what kind of show are you putting on this time? Did I provoke you again?" Yang Cheng asked in a low voice, puzzled. Mo Chieni sneered. "Isn't it good to be a flight attendant? Yang Chung was stunned and didn't hide it. How do you know? Seeing him admit it so straightforwardly, Emo Chini was even more angry and bitter. This man was too shameless. How do I know? When everyone was wearing their seat belts, you went to the toilet, and so did the flight attendant. Both of you came back after an hour. Do you think I'm a fool? Looking at Emo Chini's embarrassed and angry expression, Yang Chin's thoughts flashed like lightning. He playfully smiled and said, "Our department head Emo can't be jealous, right?" Jealous? Jealous? Emo Chini's face turned red, and she hurriedly tried to clear her name. "I'm jealous of you. Don't flatter yourself. I just feel sorry for Ruashi. She has such a shameless and playboy husband. It's really hard for her to spend the rest of her life with a man like you." They talked while walking to the exit of the airport. There were many passengers around, and it was noisy, so no one could hear what they were talking about. Yang Chung said with a smile, "You are not me and Ruashi. How do you know we're going to spend the rest of our lives together? What? Do you want to divorce Ruashi so that you can find another vixen?" Emo Chini asked angrily. "Hey, what are you so excited about? I didn't say anything. Even if I want a divorce, I'm not divorcing you. I'm just saying it casually." Yang Chung didn't expect her to have such a big reaction. Emo Chini stared straight at Yang Chung. "Let me tell you, surnamed Yang, you better not have any crooked thoughts. If you hurt Ruashi, I will definitely make you die a horrible death." Seeing the woman's beautiful eyes that were so close to him and filled with killing intent, Yang Chung smiled stiffly and waved his hand. "How could that be? I don't even have enough time to love her. How could I hurt her?" "It better be like this," Emo Chini said. "Based on my understanding of Ruashi, she doesn't say it, but she's the kind of person who won't turn back until she dies. Since she chose to marry you, she definitely won't change her mind. If you dare to abandon her for another woman, even if it's for the sake of the old chairman, I will make you live a life worse than death." Emo Chini's words were quite ruthless. Her sharp gaze told Yang Chung that she was very serious, causing a chill to run down Yang Cheng's back. However, from the beginning to the end, Emo Chini didn't say that Yang Chung was not allowed to have other lovers. She only said that he was not allowed to hurt Lin Ruashi. The meaning behind her words was a little mysterious. They walked all the way to the domestic arrival exit. At the agreed entrance, the four of them saw an eye-catching sign with the words Yu Lei and Chonglin printed on it. Several solemn-looking men in suits and ties were already waiting there. When they got closer, they saw a handsome young man standing at the front. He was wearing a navy blue suit and a scarlet tie. He was more than 8 meters tall, and he was welcoming the four of them with a warm smile. It was obvious that he was the leader of this group of people from Muyun Cloud who came to welcome them. "We've been waiting for a long time. Friends from Yulei International and Chongla Media are finally here. I'm Li Muhua, the vice president of Muyun Group. My father is Li Desen. Since my father is not well, it's inconvenient for him to travel. So, I'm here to welcome you and express my apologies on behalf of my father." Li Muhua shook hands with Lu Tao first, and then shook hands with Yang Chung and Emo Chini. Lu Tao's little assistant was directly skipped. Obviously, she had good eyesight and could tell the severity of the situation at once. Lu Tao smiled modestly and said, "I didn't expect the young master of the Li family to come in person. I'm already flattered. How could I let Mr. Li come in person? I didn't expect you to be so formal. We've neglected you," Emo Chini also said apologetically. After all, the people from the Li family were all wearing formal wear, while the four of them were in casual wear. Li Muhua quickly said, "You must be Ms. Emo Chini, right? Ms. Emo, you don't have to take it to heart. After all, you're all from the fashion industry. We can understand." Li Muhua appeared to be very easygoing. After chatting with them for a while, she led the four of them out of the airport. They got into the luxury cars that were used to welcome them. All of them were pure black 7 Series BMWs, and in the middle was an extended Cadillac. The car quickly and steadily got on the road. In the spacious extended car, Li Muhua personally poured 4 glasses of Lafite red wine that had been chilled in the car and drank it with the four of them in a friendly manner. Li Muhua didn't have the slightest arrogance that a descendant of a big family should have, which made the four of them feel very comfortable. Even Yang Cheng couldn't help but feel that this guy was almost as handsome as him. "May I ask if the four of you have been to Hong Kong before?" Li Muhua asked with a gentle smile. It was the first time for Lu Tao and the little assistant to come to Hong Kong for a business trip. Mo Qianyi had only been here once, and Yang Cheng had actually been here so many times that he had lost count. Because Hong Kong was a financial and trade center, too many tycoons and important political figures would appear here. In the past, he would often come here to deal with some problems, but it was hard to say, so he could only say that he hadn't been here before. Li Muhua immediately said with a smile, "That's great. This time you come to Hong Kong, so we, the Li family of Muyun, must be a good host. Business is business. But in private, Muhua still hopes that we can become good friends, so that we can improve together in the future. Vice President Li, you're too polite. Before we came here, Mr. Zheng said that the Li family was a century-old distinguished family. This generation of the Li family even has a capable person like Mr. Muhua, so it's bound to go to the next level." Lu Tao flattered. Li Muhua waved her hand and said, "Mr. Zheng is just being polite. Mr. Zheng comes from the Zheng family of Yinjing, not only in Yinjing, but also in many provinces on the mainland. Hong Kong is a small place, so no matter how strong it is, it's still a frog in a well. It can't be compared to a famous family like the Zheng family." Listening to the two of them flattering each other, Yang Qing couldn't take it anymore, so he interrupted and asked, Vice President Li, where are we going now? I'm hungry. Can we eat first?" His straightforward words made everyone's faces awkward. Li Muhua said a little awkwardly, "Mr. Yang, don't worry. We're going to Twilight Villa under the Muyin Group. It's a leisure, entertainment, accommodation, and dining resort. It's next to Jinza Bay, and the scenery is great. We'll arrive in about half an hour. My father and the backbones of the company are also waiting there. We can eat after we get there." Vice President Li, when will the specific discussion start? Mo Qianyi was more concerned about business. Li Muhua said solemnly, "Don't worry, Miss Mo. We're all tired from the flight today, so please rest at Twilight Villa. My father and his entourage will also relax with you. Tomorrow, we'll officially start the discussion. In the next 2 days, we'll arrange a visit to the Research Institute and discuss with the researchers. Finally, we'll draft the cooperation document together." It seems that Vice President Li has arranged everything properly. Qianyi is overthinking things. Li Muhua laughed heartily and said, "This is a good attitude for cooperation. Miss Mo, don't worry about it." More than half an hour later, the luxurious motorcade gradually drove into the dense forest of high hills. It was already autumn. The mountains were covered with red leaves, and the road was scattered with yellow. As the quiet and secluded mountain road continued to rise, they could gradually see the hazy and vast sea view in the distance. The blue and white sea line and the dense old-fashioned building pattern of the houses formed a sharp contrast with the scene on the mountain. Stop and sit in the maple forest in the evening. The frost leaves are redder than the flowers in February. Lu Tao suddenly sang in a flirtatious manner. Twilight Villa has really chosen a good place. Li Muhuan nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, this is my father's life's work. If Boss Lu likes it, you can come again in the future. We, the Li family, will welcome you." Although he knew they were just polite words, it still made Lu Tao smile from ear to ear. It was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon when they arrived at Twilight Villa. As soon as they got off the car, they saw a vast and unique orange and white building complex. The perfect combination of the retro Oriental style and the modern Western style made the entire building complex exquisite and practical. The elegant greenery made the entire leisure villa delicately divided into different residential areas. The 9 zigzag bridge on the artificial lake ingeniously let the guests enter the villa from the lake. Many of the Li family's servants in the villa immediately stopped what they were doing and bowed to welcome them. The four of them followed Li Muhua and chatted all the way into the villa. When they entered, they found that the main body of the villa was like a 5-star hotel. They came to a classical Chinese private room, decorated with a few lanterns on the ceiling. The small balcony design, with birdsong and fragrant flowers, made the private room look quiet and elegant. At the moment, there were already 4 or 5 middle-aged men in formal were sitting in the private room. They were drinking tea and discussing something in low voices. A man wearing a gray V-neck sweater with slightly gray hair was sitting in the main seat. However, he seemed to have trouble with his legs and was sitting in a wheelchair. The man looked ordinary, but when he saw Li Muhua coming in with the 4 of them, he smiled and said, "Hee, the distinguished guests are finally here. Desen, please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier. Boss Li, you're too kind. We're flattered that Mr. Li came to pick us up." Lu Tao was the best at making polite remarks, so he immediately smiled and said. After they greeted the managers of Muyun Group one by one, they sat down together. The atmosphere was harmonious. Although everyone was scheming against each other, they naturally had to maintain the best relationship on the surface. Li Desen saw that it was about time, so he gave Li Muhua, who was sitting next to him, a look. Li Muhua nodded knowingly and clapped her hands. She said to the rather good-looking waitress at the door, "Serve the dishes." The waitress was also very efficient. She brought all kinds of exquisite dishes to the table. Other than Yang Cheng, the rest of the people at the table were all experienced people in the business world. As they ate and drank, they talked about the market of the various fashion media in Shanghai and Hong Kong. They immediately became friendly. In the middle of the meal, a woman who looked like the restaurant manager suddenly ran in anxiously and whispered a few words in Li Deshen's ear. Li Deshen's hand that was holding the chopsticks froze, and then he slammed the chopsticks on the table. "Pah! Preposterous!" Chapter 149. Just a moment ago, Li Deshen, who had been talking and laughing with everyone, suddenly became furious. Everyone present was shocked. Soon, a few of Miyun Corporation's senior executives asked the old chairman what had happened. Li Deshen looked unhappy, but he did not say anything. Li Muhua, who was next to him, frowned. She seemed to have thought of something. At this moment, a man wearing a flowery shirt suddenly staggered in from the door of the private room. His face was flushed red, and his mouth was shouting something. The smell of alcohol could be smelled from afar. The man's appearance was very similar to Li Muhua's. He was slightly shorter, and he seemed to be quite drunk. He couldn't even stand steadily. As soon as he ran into the private room, he suddenly lay on the ground and crawled to Li Deshen's feet. He hugged Li Deshen's leg and wailed loudly. Everyone was embarrassed when they saw that. After all, this was the Li family's business. No matter who this man was, his behavior was enough to embarrass Li Deshen. Bastard! Li Deshen was not in good health. His face turned unnaturally red because of his anger. He pushed the young man's head away because he could not walk properly. The young man was pushed to the ground, but he didn't wake up. He cried and hugged Li Deshen's thigh again, crying even louder. "Wah, Dad, my life is so hard. Tina doesn't want me anymore." Tina ran away with another man. Wah. The people from Muyun Group naturally knew who this man was. Yang Cheng and the other 3 just realized that this was Li Deshen's other son. Li Deshen was embarrassed in front of everyone, so he was extremely angry. However, no matter how useless this bastard was, he was still his son. He could not just let the bodyguards drag him away. He could only suppress his anger and said to everyone, "I'm really sorry. My eldest son, Mucheng, has not been taught well since he was young. He doesn't do proper work all day. I can't do anything about it. I've embarrassed myself. Don't worry about it, Chairman. Every family has its own problems. I think the young master might be deeply hurt by love. That's why he suddenly came here to complain to the chairman." One of the executives tried to comfort him. At this moment, Li Muhua stood up and walked to her brother, Li Mucheng. She tried to help him up with both hands. "Brother, if there's anything, we can talk it out. Don't hold on to Dad like this. There are guests here." Li Mucheng, on the other hand, turned around and hugged Li Muhua's thigh. "Brother, your brother, have suffered so much. I gave Tina everything she wanted. Why did she have to leave me? Boo-hoo. Brother, don't cry. Let's talk nicely. I'll help you think of a solution, okay?" Li Muhua became like an older brother as she comforted Li Mucheng with a pained and helpless expression. Li Mucheng, on the other hand, was relentless like a child. He kept crying and yelling drunken nonsense such as, "Tina doesn't want me," and "let me die." This scene was not a good thing for the eldest son of such a large family, not to mention that there were guests present. Just when everyone was speechless in embarrassment, a well-built man dressed in black with a face as sharp as a knife flashed through the door. When the man saw Li Mucheng, he immediately went forward to support him. He controlled Li Mucheng so that he would not fall to the ground. Then, he bowed to Li Desen with a calm expression. "I'm sorry, Chairman. I couldn't stop the young master from running in. It's my fault." Li Desen's expression softened a little. He asked, "Li Meng, I asked you to look after this bastard. How did he become like this again?" Reporting to the chairman. Because England's Earl Scott's daughter, Miss Tina, chose to return to England to get married after finishing her university here, so she cut off her relationship with the young master. The young master drank alone the whole night and became like this. Li Meng answered expressionlessly. "How long is he going to embarrass himself for the sake of a foreign woman?" Li Desen coughed a few times in anger. Li Muhua, who was at the side, anxiously went forward to comfort him. Seeing Li Muhua's concerned gaze, Li Desen was slightly comforted. He waved his hand at Li Meng and said, "Bring this kid back to his room. Don't embarrass yourself here. Wake up first. If he dares to drink and go crazy for a woman again, I'll lock him up for 3 months." "Yes, Chairman." Li Meng was very strong. Li Mucheng couldn't break free this time. He screamed as he was dragged out by force. Li Desen stared blankly at the door for a while. Then his face turned gloomy. He forced a smile and said, "I'm sorry to have shocked everyone. My biggest regret in this life is that I didn't teach my eldest son well. But fortunately, my second son, Muhua, can take over my job. Consider it a little mercy from God." Hearing Li Desen's words, a few of the executives of Muyun Corporation immediately praised Li Muhua for his outstanding performance in the company. Even Lu Tao, who was a guest, also chimed in. He praised Li Muhua as if he could only be found in the heavens. Li Muhua wasn't too happy to be praised in front of everyone. She said to Li Desen in a roundabout way, "Father, I think my eldest brother is actually not bad. It's just that he hasn't truly understood your good intentions. When he understands it in the future, he will naturally turn over a new leaf and do his best for the company. Father, you should give him some chances." "Humph," Li Desen snorted. "Give him chances? Did I not give him chances? 3 years ago, I let him participate in the investment project, and it was a total loss. If I didn't personally intervene, I don't know how big the loss would be. He only knows how to indulge in debauchery and licking women's feet all day long. What kind of future does he have? Do you think he's your elder brother? What has he ever done for your younger brother? But no buts. I value you very much. Don't let me down," Li Desen said with a straight face. Li Muhua had no choice but to nod and stop talking. Yang Cheng silently bit a piece of snake meat while watching the family drama of the Li family. A few traces of doubt flashed in his eyes, but it disappeared in a blink of an eye. After the welcoming banquet, the people of Muyun Corporation also stayed in Twilight Villa. After all, this was a place of leisure and entertainment. Moreover, there were other high-ranking officials, rich people, and businessmen in the villa. Therefore, they didn't feel bored and went to have fun in the entertainment they liked. Yang Cheng and the other 3 people first went to the luxurious rooms that were arranged for themselves. Yang Cheng and Mo Chinny each slept in a single room, and they were next door. Lu Tao and his little assistant also slept in the same room. However, after the little assistant took the room key, she only put her luggage in Lu Tao's room. Her intention was obvious. As the person in charge of the discussion of Muyun Corporation, Li Muhua kindly waited for the 4 of them to settle down. Then, she began to wander around Twilight Villa with them. She introduced the various entertainment facilities in the villa, such as hot springs, saunas, fitness centers, and tea ceremonies. There was even a martial arts center. At the back of the villa, there was a winding road and a racetrack for sports cars, which were not allowed to be driven on ordinary roads. When the last stop was the casino in Twilight Villa, it was already night. Lu Tao and his assistant had already gone to enjoy their time together. Only Yang Cheng and Mo Chinny followed Li Muhua into the casino to visit. Obviously, there were more customers in the casino than in other places. Although Hong Kong was not as good as Macau, the casino was also a hot business. Yang Chen had never been interested in gambling. The reason was that gambling was one of the greatest pleasures. The sudden acquisition of a large amount of material goods would bring about a mental impact. To Yang Chen, it was far less exciting than the other things he did. Li Muhua smiled and introduced the history of the casino and some interesting things that had happened here. Along the way, she also greeted some acquaintances in the business circle. She seemed very easygoing. When the three of them arrived at the mahjong area, a somewhat familiar figure came into view. Li Mucheng, who was wearing a fancy Western-style suit and had a cigar in his mouth, was sitting at a mahjong table and playing mahjong with several middle-aged men with big bellies. As his bodyguard, Li Meng, who was responsible for taking care of him, stood behind him without a smile. Li Muhua didn't seem to look down on her brother like the others did. After seeing him, she immediately walked forward with a smile. "Brother, how's your luck?" Li Mucheng slowly turned his head to look at his younger brother and said in annoyance, "Wasn't bad just now, but now all the cards are stinking. I was wondering what was going on. Turns out it's you, this guy." Hearing Li Mucheng talk about Li Muhua like that, Mo Chinny, who already had a good impression of Li Muhua, frowned. "He is your brother. Don't you think it's too impolite to talk about him like that?" When Li Mucheng saw Mo Chinny, his eyes lit up. He looked at her up and down greedily. "Miss, what's your name? Where are you from? How much for a night?" "You." Seeing that Mo Chinny was about to get angry, Li Muhua hurriedly mediated. "Brother, don't be like this. Miss Mo is an important VIP sent by Zhonghai Yu Lei International. She's not that kind of woman. TCH, is it up to you? This kind of woman is most likely a slut. It all depends on whether you can afford it or not. I've seen many of them. Why are you pretending to be pure?" Li Mucheng looked proud and shook his head in disdain. Due to Li Muhua's plea, Mo Chinny didn't dare to flare up. Even so, being called that kind of woman in front of so many people still made her feel very uncomfortable. Her face flushed, she gritted her teeth, and, after saying goodbye, she ran out of the casino. Li Muhua hurriedly called 2 bodyguards to follow Mo Chinny to protect her safety and guide her back to her room. One must know that Sunset Villa was huge. It was difficult to find the way here for the first time. Obviously, she was meticulous and considerate. Yang Cheng silently walked forward, patted Li Mucheng's shoulder, and looked at him with a smile. "What? I'm not gay." Li Mucheng vigilantly kept his distance. Yang Cheng grinned. "I think you're more handsome than your brother. I just don't know how your gambling skills are. Do you dare to bet?" Chapter 150. Although he didn't know what was the relationship between good looks and gambling skills, Li Mucheng still felt he was being looked down upon when he was suddenly challenged by a stranger. He immediately agreed. "Okay, since you came with this unlucky brother of mine, you should have some skills. I'll bet with you." "Were we betting?" "No, just 1 round. We won't bet on difficult ones. You know the difficult ones, but I don't. Let's bet on dices. Big or small. 1 round to decide the winner." Yang Cheng raised a finger. 1 round? That's boring. What are we betting on?" Li Mucheng muttered. Yang Cheng chuckled and leaned close to Li Mucheng's ear to say a few words. Li Mucheng was overjoyed. He asked excitedly, "Really? Why would I lie to you? I'm in your family's territory. Would I dare to lie? Let's see if you're capable enough. What if I lose? What do you want?" Li Mucheng wasn't stupid. He immediately asked carefully. Yang Cheng raised a finger. 1 million. How about it? Li Mucheng pretended to think deeply. "So you want money. 1 million for the bet you mentioned. It's worth it. I'm not afraid you'll go back on your words. I'll bet with you." As he said that, he immediately got up and walked to the nearest dice's table. He dispersed the group of gamblers there. Seeing that the 2 were really going to bet, Li Muhua whispered to Yang Cheng, "Mr. Yang, what did you bet?" Yang Cheng made a hushed gesture. "God's secrets must not be revealed. Hey, what are you muttering about? Come and bet. Are you the banker, or am I the banker?" Li Mucheng asked loudly. Yang Cheng shrugged. "Up to you." Li Mucheng smiled proudly. "Since you said up to you, then I won't give in to you. You must be deliberately being generous to make me feel embarrassed. You want me to let you be the banker, right? Do you think I'm a 3-year-old kid? Since you're so easily fooled, I'll listen to you and be the banker myself. After saying this, Li Muching felt that he was very smart. After laughing a few times, he slowly began to shake the cup in his hand. The sound of the dice rolling inside the cup kept ringing. Yang Chung rested his hands on the table and flicked his fingers, leisurely waiting for the dice to stop. Many people around them held their breath and watched. After all, the bet was 1 million. Even if the people here were all rich, they rarely played dice to such a high level. About half a minute later, Li Muching stopped shaking until his hands were sore. The dice under the cup finally quieted down. Make a guess. Li Muching's face was full of fighting spirit. He raised his head and said. Yang Chung carelessly scratched his ear. Without looking at the cup, he looked up at Li Muching's face and said, Big. That's impossible. I guess it's small. Li Muching laughed. You guessed wrong. Based on my decades of experience as a gambling expert, this is definitely a big deal. After saying that, Li Muching suddenly opened the cup. 113 small. A dealer at the side reported in a low voice. Li Muching's face was suddenly full of depression. He muttered, impossible. Seeing that her brother lost, Li Muhua smiled at Yang Chung and said, Mr. Yang, your gambling skills are excellent. You won. I'll send a 1 million check to your room later. No need. Li Muching suddenly appeared and stopped him. I'll give you a check if I lose. I don't need your stinky money. After saying that, he glared at Li Muhua and took the checkbook from Li Meng. With a big stroke, a 1 million Huaxia bank check was handed to Yang Chung. Yang Chung didn't stand on ceremony. He took it and directly put it in his pocket. It seems that young Master Li's luck isn't very good. I'm a person who knows when to stop. I'll bid you farewell tonight. Li Muhua was rejected by Li Muching on the spot, but she wasn't angry. After smiling at everyone present, she caught up with Yang Chung from behind and whispered, Mr. Yang, is it convenient for you to tell me what's the bet between you and my brother? I'm very curious as to why my brother would suddenly be willing to bet with you. Yang Chung slowly took out a cigarette from his pocket. After putting it in his mouth, he signaled Li Muhua to light it for him. Li Muhua didn't dislike it. She looked very happy. She borrowed a lighter from her sidekick and lit it for Yang Chung. After taking a puff, Yang Chung nodded with satisfaction and said, You really know how to behave better than your brother. Your dad should really look up to you. Mr. Yang is overpraising me. I'm just doing my duty as a host. Li Muhua waved her hand. Yang Chung blew a few smoke rings and smiled evilly. Actually, I didn't say anything special to him. I just said that if he won, I would help him knock out Mo Qianni and send her to his room. Li Muhua looked horrified and hurriedly said, Mr. Yang, how can you do this to Miss Mo? If Miss Mo knew that you secretly used her as a bet behind her back, it would be so hurtful. It will also destroy the friendship between us. Didn't I win? Why are you so anxious? Yang Chung asked with a smile. Li Muhua blushed and coughed a few times. She said that, I'm just worried that the relationship between the two of you is strained, which is not conducive to our next discussion. However, I will definitely help Mr. Yang to keep it secret. I only hope that Mr. Yang won't do this in the future. Don't worry, it won't happen in the short term. 1 million yuan is enough for me to use for a while. Yang Chung sighed with satisfaction. When he returned to his room, it was almost 12 o'clock in the evening. In the quiet room, the light softly turned on. Yang Chung turned on the TV. The satellite TV happened to be broadcasting a French radio station, and it was a reading program. Since there was no language requirement, Yang Chung wasn't picky, so he just left it there. He went to the bathroom and turned on the faucet. He planned to take a bath, but just as he took off his clothes, there was a knock on the door. Yang Chung was curious who would knock on the door so late at night. He went directly to the door and opened it. He found Mo Qianni standing outside the door. She had changed into a loose and generous plaid pajamas. Her wet hair told him that the woman had just taken a bath. Her body was still exuding the fragrance of shower gel. Yeah, I thought it was the service lady that I called. I didn't expect it to be the higher-class department head Mo. Yang Chung joked. Mo Qianni blushed and turned her head. Can't you put on your clothes before opening the door? I want to take a bath and refer clothes. Can't you pick a time when I'm not taking a bath? Yang Chung said as he took a few steps back into the room. He didn't plan to put on his clothes. What's going on so late at night? Don't tell me you really want to sleep with me? I'm a very clean person. Mo Chinny wasn't a shy girl. Seeing that Yang Chung didn't plan to cover up, she didn't dwell on the issue of his naked upper body. She strode into Yang Cheng's room. She walked to the bed and the toilet and looked around. Yang Chung was puzzled. Miss Mo, is there anything worth looking at? Our rooms are the same. Humph. Mo Chinny glared at him. I'm helping Ruashi to check if you're irresponsible enough to bring a vixen home at night. Yang Chung suddenly understood. He smiled evilly and said, You're really helping my wife check? I don't think Ruashi would care about this kind of problem at all. But Miss Mo, you seem to care a lot. Mo Chinny's ears were hot, and her heart was beating fast. She had indeed been brooding about what happened on the plane during the day. When she thought that Yang Chung might bring another woman at night, she felt uncomfortable. After thinking about it again and again, she decided to come and take a look. Don't be complacent. Do you think you're Tang Sung? Everyone is chasing after you to eat meat. I'm just doing my duty as a good sister. Since you didn't bring a vixen back, I'll leave. Mo Chinny felt that she would die of embarrassment if she stayed any longer. She lowered her head and hurriedly wanted to slip away from Yang Cheng's side and leave the room. Suddenly, Yang Chung grabbed Mo Chinny's cold arm with one hand. Mo Chinny stopped in her tracks. With her back facing Yang Chung, she asked nervously, Why did you grab me? Yang Chung sighed and said, I'm sorry. I was wrong that night. I solemnly apologize to you. That night was naturally in Mo Chinny's house. Yang Chung deliberately pretended to be asleep and waited for Mo Chinny to kiss him. In fact, that matter was Mo Chinny's own will. As a passive party, Yang Chung didn't do anything wrong. But in terms of sincerity, Yang Chung deceived this innocent woman because he deliberately lied to Mo Chinny that he was asleep when he was awake so that he could get a kiss from her. This was tantamount to saying that he deliberately took advantage of her irresponsibly so that Mo Chinny's true feelings couldn't get a true answer. Mo Chinny's delicate body slightly trembled. With her back facing Yang Chung, her charming face drooped down. Her eyes were red, but she forcibly held back her tears. She took a deep breath and lightly said, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't tell me these words that I don't understand. With that said, Mo Chinny forcefully broke away from Yang Cheng's arm and quickly ran back to her room. Yang Chung helplessly curled his lips. This apology was a bit late, but there was nothing he could do about it. If it was too late, she would definitely have a bigger reaction and wouldn't listen to him at all. As for whether Mo Chinny could forgive him, Yang Chung didn't have any extravagant hope. The relationship between the two was now close and estranged. Half an hour later, Yang Chung finished his bath and changed into the pajamas that were prepared in the guest room. He turned off the light and laid on the bed to prepare to sleep. He suddenly thought that at this time, would Lin Ruashi, who was in Zhonghai, call him and ask him if it went well? After thinking about it, Yang Chung felt that it was too ridiculous. If the ice beauty really said that to him, he would definitely think that he had seen a ghost in the middle of the night. Just when Yang Chung closed his eyes and planned to Anshin's sleep, his extraordinary hearing made him hear some sounds that he shouldn't have heard. Chapter 151. All the guest rooms in the Twilight Villa used traditional metal locks and keys, which looked particularly simple and unadorned. There was no need for advanced locks like laser magnetic cards, mainly because of the antique charm of the entire villa. Moreover, in such a leisure villa halfway up the mountain, the security was tight, so there was really no trouble such as theft. At this moment, in the guest room area, in the long corridor, a handsome man dressed in the villa's waiter uniform was pushing a trolley with various cleaning tools on it. After slowly pushing it to the door of a room, the man looked left and right and then stopped. He knocked on the door of the nearest guest room, but there was no response from inside. The waiter was worried, so he knocked twice more. Seeing that there was still no movement inside, the waiter simply put his ear to the door, listening for any movement inside. After dozens of seconds, The waiter was sure that the guest inside was already asleep. A thin but flexible metal wire appeared in the man's hand like magic. With a cold expression, the man inserted the steel wire into the metal keyhole and began to grind it rhythmically. He listened to the sound of friction and collision in the keyhole. Only professionals could understand the meaning of the subtle sound. About 10 seconds later, there was a crisp click of the door lock, and the door that was locked from the inside was opened. The waiter calmly put the steel wire in his trouser pocket. Just as he was about to walk through the door, someone suddenly patted his shoulder from behind. Danger? The waiter almost instinctively turned around, and at the same time moved to the side, nervously looking at the person who patted his shoulder. This was a young man with an average appearance, wearing the villa's guest room pajamas with a smile on his face. It was Yang Chung, who had quietly walked out after hearing the special sound. The waiter immediately showed an embarrassed and respectful expression and apologetically bowed. "I'm sorry, sir. You scared me just now, so I was so excited." "I scared you?" Yang Chung touched his chin and said with a strange smile. "I was scared when you used a small steel wire to open the copper lock. This skill can't be learned in a year or two." The waiter showed a blank look. "Sir, what are you talking about? I don't understand at all." "It doesn't matter if you don't understand. If you lend me the steel wire in your pocket to play with, then everything will be fine," Yang Chung said. A trace of coldness flashed in the waiter's eyes as he said with a smile, "All right, then." The waiter put his hand into the pocket of his pants, lowered his head, and slowly took out the thing inside. "Die!" Suddenly, a small dagger with a cold glint was pulled out from his pocket. The moment it was pulled out, it stabbed towards Yang Cheng's throat. Yang Cheng was already prepared. He calmly slapped the waiter's arm that was holding the knife. The force directly numbed half of the waiter's arm, and the sharp knife in his hand naturally fell to the ground in a long arc. "What I want is steel wire. I'm not interested in this knife," Yang Chung said with a faint smile as he watched the waiter retreat with his arms folded in pain. The waiter's originally delicate and pretty face immediately turned sinister and fierce. He suddenly fished out a .54 pistol from the gap of the cleaning tools on the trolley, raised it up, and was about to shoot at Yang Chun. Bang! Before the pistol could shoot, the trolley in front of the waiter suddenly fiercely hit the waiter's chest. The waiter felt a sharp pain in his chest. He didn't hold the gun steadily, and it fell to the ground. His body also curled up and rolled on the ground. Yang Chung retracted his foot that kicked the trolley and sighed. "If you take the gun and shoot, it's not as fast as me directly using the trolley as a cannon." After that, Yang Chung kicked the pistol on the ground far away. He squatted down and grabbed the waiter's palm to look at it. Just by looking at it, Yang Chung frowned. With his rich experience, Yang Chung could determine with 100% certainty that this waiter was a person who used a gun all year round. Of course, it was absolutely impossible for someone who came here to pretend to be a waiter to be a police officer. It was impossible for a thief to use a gun all year round. So there was only one explanation: assassin. "Who sent you to kill Mo Chinny?" Yang Chung asked with a slightly serious look. The waiter was seriously injured, and his whole body felt like it was about to fall apart. When he heard Yang Cheng's question, he was very stubborn and coldly snorted. He didn't say anything. Yang Chung was too lazy to ask more. He directly slapped the poor assassin's face and knocked him out. At this time, there was movement in the room. Mo Chinny, who woke up from her sleepiness, finally came to the door of the room. She saw the scene in front of her and exclaimed, "Yang Chung, what's going on?" Yang Chung shrugged. "I think it's better for you to make a phone call first and inform the villa service desk." Although Mo Chinny was shocked by what had happened, she was also a calm and strong woman. She immediately ran into the room and called the villa management office. Soon, not only the manager of the villa, but even Li Muhua, who had not slept yet, rushed to the scene. After all, Yang Chung and Mo Chinny were VIPs of Muyun Group's business cooperation this time, so they couldn't be neglected. When everyone who rushed to the scene saw the waiter on the ground and the Type 54 pistol on the ground, they were shocked. "Mr. Yang, what's going on?" Li Muhua asked anxiously. Yang Chung yawned and told her about how he happened to see the waiter lock the door with a steel wire. He wanted to enter Mo Chinny's room, and then took out a pistol to kill him. He only said that he was lucky and kicked the cart hard. The waiter didn't pay attention, so he succeeded and saved his life. Although there were some loopholes as a victim, it was enough to say so. Li Muhua's face suddenly turned green and white. She pointed at the manager and the head of security and scolded, "What are you doing? Do waiters bring guns to work?" "President, we don't know. We have never seen this waiter before. He looks unfamiliar." The manager in charge of the guest room was so scared that his legs were trembling. Unfamiliar? Li Muhua was not stupid. She looked at Yang Cheng and said, "Mr. Yang, it seems that this is indeed not someone from our villa. It must be an outsider who sneaked in and tried to murder Miss M.O." Yang Cheng shook his head and said, "It's not just Miss M.O. who tried to murder us. Both Miss M.O. and I were sent by Yu Lei for this negotiation. On the first day we arrived, someone tried to assassinate us at night. Just now, he took out a gun and wanted to kill me. I think he didn't want to kill Miss M.O., but the negotiator sent by Yu Lei. If this murder is successful, I think the next target will be Chonglin's President Liu." Everyone present understood a little bit. This was a hidden assassination in the mall. Li Muhua's expression became more and more dignified. She ordered all the bodyguards to focus on protecting this area and thoroughly investigate all the service staff. No one was allowed to enter or leave without permission. After all the silent managers ran away, Li Muhua solemnly apologized to Yang Cheng and Mo Qianni. "I'm sorry. I didn't expect such a thing to happen on my first day in Hong Kong. It's Muhua's dereliction of duty. Fortunately, Mr. Yang is quick-witted and has extraordinary skills. Otherwise, Muhua wouldn't be able to sleep and eat in peace for the rest of my life if I hurt you." Mo Qianni didn't expect that things would be so dangerous. The hidden crisis behind this business trip made her, a strong woman who had been in the business world for several years, feel a chill down her spine. She looked at the calm and composed Yang Cheng beside her, thinking that if it weren't for this scoundrel, hooligan, and beast, she might really die with everlasting regret. "I say, second young Master Li, the other party's goal is to prevent us from carrying out normal business cooperation. I think you and I are very clear that the products developed, manufactured, and sold through this cooperation will greatly promote the future of our three companies by leaps and bounds. It can be said that we will reach an unparalleled standard in the industry. With your brain, second young Master Li, it shouldn't be difficult for you to think of the real culprit behind this." Yang Cheng winked at Li Muhua and said with a smile. Li Muhua forced a smile. "Sure enough, I can't hide it from Mr. Yang. Actually, Mr. Yang and Miss M.O. should also know about the real culprit behind this, even more than me." Chapter 152. We know it better than you. Mo Qianni didn't quite understand. "What do you mean, Boss Li? We don't know many people in Hong Kong. Even if we do have business partners, they are not important. How could any of them want to kill us?" Li Muhua shook her head and said, "The person I'm talking about is not in Hong Kong, but a strong enemy in Zhonghai, Su Jihong from Donghua Technology." "Su Jihong? How could it be him?" Mo Qianni frowned and asked, "This time we're talking about the development of new environmentally friendly and energy-saving materials for fashion products. What does this have to do with Donghua Technology?" Yang Cheng was also puzzled. Things were obviously more complicated than he thought. Li Muhua sighed. "It's a long story. I think, for some reason, your General Lin must be hiding something from you. Why don't we go to the tea room in the villa and talk about this while enjoying tea? It's not a good idea to keep standing in this corridor." Yang Cheng and Mo Qianni were no longer sleepy. After agreeing, they quickly changed their clothes and went to Twilight Tea House with Li Muhua. At the same time, in order to be fair, Li Muhua also sent someone to invite the vice president of Chonglin, Lu Tao, who was also lying on the bed. After serving tea, they started talking. When Lu Tao learned that Yang Cheng and Mo Qianni were almost killed, he was so scared that he was no longer sleepy. He rushed over with cold sweat on his forehead. "Boss Li, how could that happen? I don't want to lose my life in Hong Kong." Lu Tao was crying. He was timid by nature. How could he stay calm when he suddenly found an armed killer? Li Muhua comforted him. "Don't worry, Boss Lu. The killer has been subdued and sent to the police station. Our security work has reached the highest standard. We will definitely protect your safety." That's good, that's good. Let's talk business. Lu Tao wiped his cold sweat and said with a stiff smile. Li Muhua took a sip of her green tea, sorted out her thoughts, and said, I'll start from the reason why our three companies are cooperating this time. I think Mr. Yang and Ms. Mo might not be clear about this, but the main reason why our Muyun group decided to cooperate with the Zheng family Shanglin Media was because my father and the current head of the Zheng family, Mr. Zheng Weiqiang, were once comrades during the Vietnam War. For so many years, the Zheng family of Beijing and the Li family of Hong Kong have maintained a good friendship. Therefore, for this important project, there is no one more suitable than Shanglin Media. Then why did you choose Yulei as the distributor? As far as I know, although there aren't many fashion companies that can compete with us, there are definitely more than a handful in Huaxia, Mo Chinny said. Li Muhua nodded. That's right. What I want to say is the reason why I chose Yulei International as the third partner, besides the strong sales network of Yulei International over the past 30 years, the good brand effect, and the high efficiency of the industrial chain, there is another big reason, and that is capital and interpersonal relationships. According to our preliminary investigation, there isn't a fashion company that can invest a huge amount of capital in this project like Yulei International. And the president of Yulei International, Lin Ruoxi, happens to be General Lin's junior in university. This relationship is also very important to us. There's one more thing. Fatty Lu Tao, who had already calmed down, suddenly laughed and said, As far as I know, your General Lin seems to have quite a grudge against the Su family, especially the president of Donghua Technology, Su Jihong. Yang Cheng turned the teacup in his hand and asked, I've seen Su Jihong a few times. Why is this cooperation related to the Su family? Why did he intervene and even send assassins? Li Muhua said solemnly, although we can't be sure that the assassins sent by the Su family are deliberately causing trouble. For now, the Su family is the biggest suspect, because this research project is also the latest key research project of the Su family's Donghua technology. The Su family is also researching new materials? Mo Chinny asked doubtfully. Isn't Muyun's research lab far ahead of the others in this research project? It's like this. In terms of the entire world, our Muyun's research lab has the most advanced technology. The developer of this technology is a collateral relative of our Li family, Professor Li Guangxuan, who personally led the research team. Unfortunately, Professor Li Guangxuan's junior, Professor Green Sandler, happens to be the leader of the Green Research Institute that was established by the Su family in recent years. Their research is almost at the same level, and no one can guarantee who will be the first to publish the results. Whoever publishes the results first will get the patent. At such a critical moment, we can't afford to make mistakes. But if that's the case, then isn't our cooperation very dangerous? Who can guarantee that we will get the patent first? Mo Chinny immediately thought of this. Li Muhua nodded and said, That's right. This is also what I mentioned before. It's very important that Yulei can provide a large amount of funds. According to Professor Li Guangxuan, the successful development of this technology will take at least half a year. Within this half a year, the amount of funds invested will directly affect the speed of the later results. The Su family is one of the top 5 families in Zhonghai. Although the economic strength of Donghua Technology is not as strong as the three of us, with the support of the Su family, it will definitely be better than any of us. Therefore, only when the three of us work together will we be able to take the initiative. After listening to this introduction, Yang Cheng finally understood. In this case, Su Jihong was indeed too suspicious. Moreover, because of his relationship with Lin Ruoxi, Su Jihong must want him to die as soon as possible. It was not surprising that he sent assassins. Actually, there's nothing wrong with the Su family doing this. After all, the research project this time is too profitable. Many countries in Europe and America are also very envious. Unfortunately, their research is far from the Li family and the Su family's research team in this aspect. Li Muhua smiled and said, It's just that I didn't expect the Su family to be so impatient and so ruthless so quickly. They wanted to kill the 2 negotiators to stop our alliance. But I can also understand. Even if they didn't do this, will we let the Su family research smoothly? We definitely have to make some obstructions. I don't support them doing what they did. Killing their people is too cruel, even in the business world. No matter who designed it first, there must be a way to design a similar product by playing on the edge of the law. There's no need to deprive those scientists of their lives for money. Mo Chini said with dissatisfaction. Li Muhua quickly waved her hand. Miss Mo, you misunderstood me. What I mean is, poach them. After all, Dr. Green is Dr. Li Guangshuan's junior. If we can convince Dr. Green to help us research together with Dr. Li Guangshuan, then our product will appear faster. Unfortunately, that's too difficult. I heard that Green, that American, is simply stubborn. When he was still depressed, the Su family trusted him and helped him set up the research lab. He can be said to be dead set on the Su family. How can he easily side with us? Lu Tao laughed. Even if the possibility is low, we still have to try. A slightly old voice suddenly sounded from outside the tea room. Everyone looked back. It was Li Deshen, accompanied by a few attendants, pushing a wheelchair slowly over. Li Muhua hurriedly got up and greeted. Father, it's so late. Why are you here? Li Deshen snorted. Although I'm old and my body is not good, I'm not senile yet. Last night, there were assassins who wanted to harm the 2 VIPs of Yulei International. Do you want to hide such an important matter from me? No, I just want to wait until Father wakes up tomorrow morning. Li Muhua said bitterly. Everything has its priorities. Don't forget what I taught you. Li Deshen glared at his second son. Then with a smile, he said to Mo Chini and Yang Chung. Mr. Yang, Miss Mo, you must be frightened. I promise, there will be no more assassins. Chairman Li, CEO, not good. Without waiting for Li Deshen to say a few more words, another panicked voice came from outside the tea room. It was a supervisor of Twilight Villa who ran in. At this moment, his face was full of fear, and he shouted with a trembling voice, Not good, Chairman. Just now, someone suddenly made a threatening phone call, saying that a biochemical bomb was installed in the villa. What? Li Deshen, who had just reassured the guests, suddenly collapsed and asked with a livid face, Say it again. Say it clearly. The supervisor was just about to speak when the phone of the assistant standing behind Li Deshen suddenly rang. After looking at the phone, the assistant said, Chairman, it's an unknown number. When the supervisor heard this, he shouted, Chairman, it's him. He just said to let me tell the chairman about this matter, and then he will personally speak to the chairman. Everyone present revealed a nervous look. The assassin incident had just subsided. How could it be a biochemical bomb? Answer. Speaker. Li Deshen said calmly in the face of danger. The assistant dialed the phone, and an electronic voice immediately sounded from the phone. Chairman Li, Silly, you're still drinking tea in the tea room so late at night. What a good mood. Everyone was shocked. It was amazing enough to know Li Deshen's private phone number. But how did that person know that they were in the tea room? You don't have to panic. If I can't even know where you are, how can I guarantee that the biochemical bomb I installed will affect you? How can I make you believe that I really installed the bomb? Who are you? Li Deshen asked with a frown. The electronic voice on the phone laughed a few times. Who I am is not important. What's important is that now I only need to gently press a button, and the biochemical bomb installed in Twilight Villa will pass through the ventilation duct and instantly contaminate the entire villa within a minute. At that time, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. Chapter 153. The so-called biochemical bomb was not an ordinary bomb. After the explosion, it would produce a high temperature that would cause the air to expand at a terrifying speed, achieving its purpose of destruction. Biochemical bombs used all kinds of special viruses, bacteria, and microorganisms. At the moment of explosion, they would spread in all directions and invade the human body. Such toxins could make people wish they were dead. Even if they survived, they would be half dead or suffer from a painful illness. It was an anti-human weapon that was strictly prohibited in the world. The electronic voice on the phone was incomparably arrogant, but this kind of arrogance made people feel helpless. Everyone present was afraid of death, not to mention that it was a death worse than death. Since you didn't activate the bomb directly, you must have your purpose. Tell me, Li Deshen said. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Chairman Li is not stupid. Actually, what I want is very simple. 20 million Huaxia dollars, I want it tonight. You want money? Li Deshen looked at the people around him. Many of them seemed to be relieved. After all, as long as the other party wanted money, there was still room for negotiation. 20 million, it shouldn't be difficult for the rich Li family. I can control the situation in the villa at any time. If I find out that you dare to call the police or a large number of people escape the villa, I will detonate the bomb immediately. Don't force me to do something I don't like. Li Deshen suppressed his anger. Easy for you to say. Even if you have money, 20 million isn't something that can be taken out easily. But I promise you, 20 million, I hope you will abide by the rules of the game. Do you want to transfer the money to your account or withdraw it? Transfer? Am I stupid or are you stupid? I want cash. Send it to the third warehouse at the Golden Lake Bay Pier within an hour. It has to be from Chairman Li or the two young masters of the Li family. If it's anyone else, it doesn't count. I will press the detonation button. Also, if I find other people or the police, I will press the detonator as well. With that, the phone was cut off. Many people at the scene took a deep breath. This criminal actually wanted the Li family to send the money personally. This wasn't just asking for money. It was obviously asking for life. Father, it's better to believe it than not, Li Muhua said with a serious expression. Li Deshen took a deep breath. I know. We can't afford to gamble. This money has to be sent. There were at least 100 important guests in Twilight Villa. It would be unthinkable if one or two of them were to be killed by the biochemical bomb. The Li family could not take the risk. At this moment, a voice that sounded like a duck's voice rushed over from afar. Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Get lost! I want to see my dad. Li Mucheng, who was wearing silk pajamas, swayed left and right as he ran to the center of the crowd. He threw himself in front of Li Deshen and cried in panic, Dad, I heard that there are biochemical bombs in the manor. Is it true? Humph, just a bomb and you're scared to this extent. What kind of scandal is this? Li Deshen said angrily. Li Mucheng's face was pale. Dad, you must think of a way. I'm still young, and I don't want to die yet. Wow. As he spoke, Li Mucheng actually burst into tears on the spot. Evil creature. Evil creature. Other than crying, what else can you do? Li Deshen was furious. At such a critical moment, he still had such a stupid son. How could he not be angry? I'm about to die. Can't I even cry? Wow. Li Mucheng's snot and tears flowed down his face as if he was crying for his own funeral. Li Deshen really didn't want to look at him anymore. He waved his hand and said to a few followers, drag this useless thing back to the room. A few bodyguards immediately went forward. Li Meng, who was taking care of Li Mucheng, helped him up and quickly pulled Li Mucheng out of the tea room. However, Li Mucheng's crying only dissipated after a long time. Li Muhua saw her brother being dragged away and sighed softly. Father, let me send the money. You? Li Deshen frowned. No, you still need to manage the Muyun Corporation in the future. The Li family can't do without you. Your useless brother is beyond saving. There's not much use for me to keep these old bones of mine. Let me send the money. No, Li Muhua said seriously. Father, I can listen to you on other things, but not this time. If I, as your son, watch you do such a dangerous thing and can't stop you, if anything happens, I won't be able to live my life anymore. Bastard, can't you tell what's more important? Li Muhua knelt on the ground without hesitation and looked straight at Li Deshen in the wheelchair. Father, nothing is more important than you in my heart. The whole place was silent at this moment. Li Muhua's words deeply touched everyone's heart. At this moment, Li Muhua was not only a talented and knowledgeable young CEO who was good at management, but also the heir of a big family. He was also the most honest and pure filial son. Although Li Deshen had been maintaining his dignity, he couldn't help but cry when he heard his favorite second son say these words. Little bastard, get up, don't kneel. Li Deshen sighed as if he had aged a few years, but there was a gratified smile on his wrinkled face. Father, if you don't agree to let me go, I won't get up, Li Muhua said stubbornly. Li Deshen smiled helplessly. I'm old, but my mind is still clear. I know that even if I don't let you go today, you will definitely force yourself to go. You kid, although you're less worrisome than your brother, you're also not easy to deal with. Forget it. I'll listen to you and let you go. Li Muhua finally breathed a sigh of relief, stood up and said, "Thank you, father. Then I'll immediately ask someone to prepare 20 million and personally send it over." And Li Desen reached out his hand and held one of Li Muhua's wrists and squeezed it tightly. "Remember, as long as people are still alive, everything will still be there. Don't be impulsive." I understand. When others saw this scene, they all felt happy and bitter for the father and son. Li Desen being able to have such a son was indeed a blessing for him and the Li family. Unfortunately, the criminals actually did such a terrible thing and forced the Li family to take such a risk. At the same time, most people were lamenting why Li Muhua's brother Li Muching, who was also a member of the Li family, couldn't help at all and only caused trouble. Everyone, return to your posts and minimize the impact of this incident. Don't let the guests panic. Just pretend that nothing happened. Li Muhua commanded the Li family's employees in a loud voice. The employees all agreed in unison. They all knew that the best thing to do now was to pretend that everything was fine. Otherwise, if the guests were in a mess, the criminals might directly detonate the bomb. When these managers left, Li Desen also left the scene with his entourage, handing over all the trust to his son. This was obviously telling Li Muhua that he must live, because the Li family's future depended on him. Li Muhua took a deep breath, calmed his emotions, and calmly said to Yang Cheng and the others, "Everyone, I didn't expect that this cooperation would attract so many talents. I think that this time, the criminals might also be a trick of the Su family. Although I don't know why they did it, unfortunately, they succeeded. Manager Li, do you really want to go? It's obvious that you don't even know how you die." Although Lu Tao was afraid, he was not stupid, so he kindly advised. Mo Chini also nodded and frowned. "I think we should inform the Royal Police of Hong Kong, or the Flying Tigers. If we send money for nothing, there is no chance at all. Instead, we may be taken as hostages by the criminals and continue to be blackmailed. Don't make sarcastic remarks." Yang Cheng curled his lips and stretched comfortably. "Our current situation doesn't allow us to take risks at all. Whether it is to confirm whether there is a bomb or to choose to leave Twilight Villa, it is based on the premise that we assume that the criminals don't know the specific situation here. But at present, the criminals obviously have an insider monitoring every move here. Maybe that person is among our group, and he can inform us at any time. As long as we do something against the criminals' will, everyone will die in the next second. So, letting Mr. Li send money is the only solution." Li Muhua smiled bitterly. "Mr. Yang's analysis is correct. We have no choice. But you can rest assured, second brother Li." Yang Cheng called Li Muhua second brother again and said, "Since the criminals are so bored to extort money, it means that they are not interested in our lives. Otherwise, they could directly ask for hundreds of millions. We don't even need to send money, because it is impossible to raise so much cash at one time. We could just wait for death." "I think so too. The best situation now is that the criminals are not sent by the Su family. In that case, I won't be in too much danger. After they get the money, they should directly escape by sea. After all, Jinza Bay is very close to the international waters." Li Muhua continued her analysis. "To tell you the truth, I'm a Taekwondo black belt. If it wasn't for the fact that there were too many of them and they had a lot of firepower, it wouldn't be easy for them to harm me. After all, I can also go there with weapons." With that said, the people in the room slowly came to their senses. They did not expect that there were so many things to analyze behind this incident. Mo Chini looked at Yang Cheng strangely. The latter was calmly drinking his cold tea, not arrogant nor impatient. Ruashi chose him to be the representative for the negotiation. It seemed that it was not entirely because of personal relations. Mo Chini's mouth slightly raised as she thought to herself. Since the matter had been settled, the rest of the people dispersed. Except for Li Muhua, everyone went back to their rooms to wait for news. After all, the criminals had said that if they found a large number of people escaping, then they would also detonate the bomb. Who knew how many people the criminals were talking about? So it was better to be obedient and guard. Yang Chung and Mo Chinny walked back to their rooms together. When they entered the corridor of the room, Yang Chung suddenly stopped and said with a smile, "My mind is too clear to sleep. Let's go to the bar in the villa and have a few drinks before going to sleep. You go back first." With that, he turned and walked back. Mo Chinny looked back at Yang Cheng's back, and a trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. Chapter 154. Of course, Yang Cheng wouldn't be so bored as to drink alcohol. Not to mention the fact that he couldn't immerse himself in alcohol due to his brain. Yang Cheng felt that it was too interesting. Others might not be able to see the inner things, but in Yang Cheng's eyes, there were too many things that were worth pondering and doubting. There were even many details that were filled with all kinds of hidden meanings. How could he choose such a wonderful moment to drink alcohol? After passing a few corners with no one around, Yang Cheng came to a small exit at the back of the villa. There was a small door that led to the open-air parking lot at the back of the villa. With such a huge building complex, there were naturally many exits. It was impossible for there to be only one entrance, so Yang Cheng easily found this one. However, Yang Cheng wasn't in a hurry to go out. Instead, he slowly turned around and shouted towards the empty corridor, "Miss Mo, it's not a good habit to follow a person, especially a beautiful woman following a man with a wife." After holding in for a while, Mo Chinny came out from a corner with a red face and said angrily, "Who told you to lie to me? You obviously wanted to run away." "Run away? I didn't say I wanted to run away." Yang Cheng slowly approached Mo Chinny. Mo Chinny's eyes flashed with understanding. "I know, you want to go to the warehouse at the Golden Lake Bay Pier. You want to go to the place where Li Muhua went. Am I right?" "So smart, but what does this have to do with you?" Yang Cheng said bluntly. "I can't let you go. It's too dangerous." Mo Chinny said anxiously. "But you can't stop me." Yang Cheng shrugged and smiled. Mo Chinny saw that Yang Cheng was getting closer and closer. She subconsciously took 2 steps back. "Then bring me with you. I can't let you go to such a dangerous place alone." Yang Cheng asked curiously, "If you know it's dangerous, why do you still want to go with me?" I'm worried about you," Mo Chinny said in a low voice. Her face was red under the light. She couldn't let Yang Cheng go to such a dangerous place alone. Although she knew that this was too straightforward and was equivalent to expressing her feelings, Mo Chinny couldn't care too much about being reserved at such a critical moment. Yang Cheng was also stunned. He didn't expect Mo Chinny to speak her mind so directly. But once a woman tells you in such a gentle voice that she doesn't trust you, can you still treat her with a tough attitude? Yang Cheng couldn't, so Yang Cheng gave up on his original plan to stun Mo Chinny. After a moment of silence, Yang Cheng sighed and smiled lightly. "I was going to stun you and throw you back to the room, but I'm a soft-hearted person. I can't listen to women's good words, especially beautiful women's sugar-coated bullets. Since you want to go with me so much, then I'll fulfill your wish." "You." Mo Chinny was so angry that her tears almost came out. She looked at him with grievance. "You actually want to stun me?" "Nonsense. You're worried about my safety, and I'm also worried about you," Yang Cheng said. Suddenly, Mo Chinny became silent. Her heartbeat sped up several times, and she looked away like a delicate flower. She pursed her lips, not allowing herself to laugh happily. The ambiguous feelings between the two seemed to have gotten a real response at this moment. It seemed meaningless to talk more, as long as this hazy sweetness was enough. "Hey, silly girl, do you need to be so happy? Are you still going?" Yang Cheng asked with a smile. Mo Chinny quickly came back to her senses. "Of course I'm going, but you have to take me with you." Her eyes were pitiful, like a little woman who had been bullied, completely losing the tough side of a strong woman. Yang Cheng hooked his finger at the woman, and Mo Chinny quickly followed. When they came to the exit of the small door, there was already a bodyguard in black standing outside, obviously to prevent guests from leaving without permission. "Brother, come in." Yang Cheng waved at the bodyguard with a smile. The brother in black quickly entered the door and asked kindly, "What's the matter, sir?" "Well, please faint for a moment." Before the bodyguard in black could react, Yang Cheng's lightning-fast knife hand had already hit the back of his neck, and the black-clothed man immediately fainted on the ground. Mo Qianyi opened her small mouth in surprise, looking at Yang Cheng cutely. "Did you want to stun me like this before? Take a guess." Yang Cheng winked at her and flashed out of the door. In the dark, the parking lot was quiet. Only the sound of the wind blowing through the forest could be heard. A few branded cars were parked in the parking lot, looking bright and eye-catching. Mo Qianyi felt that the temperature was a little low and asked Yang Cheng with her arms crossed, "Are you going with Li Muhua? We don't have a car." Yang Cheng smiled evilly. "Who said we don't have a car? Aren't there cars everywhere?" As he spoke, he pointed at the cars in the parking lot. "Are you trying to steal a car?" Mo Qianyi was confused, but before she could stop him, Yang Cheng had already walked to the door of the nearest black Lexus. "Hey, you're joking, right?" Mo Qianyi asked with a forced smile. Yang Cheng touched his chin, circled the car, and seemed to confirm something. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand, made a cone gesture, and slammed it on the car window. Bang! The sound of glass shattering was heard, and a big hole suddenly appeared on the car window. "See that?" Yang Cheng pointed at the car door that he had easily broken through. "This model of Lexus, the alarm system, is quite weak. As long as you don't forcibly open the lock, it won't sound the alarm." After that, under the cute, stunned expression of Mo Qianyi, Yang Cheng reached out and casually unlocked the door from the inside, then opened the driver's door and sat in. Mo Qianyi was on the verge of fainting. Yang Chen's actions had completely exceeded the limits of morality, law, and body that ordinary people understood. This wasn't something an ordinary woman like her could understand. "Get in the car." Yang Cheng gestured to her and opened the door of the front passenger seat. When Mo Qianyi got in the car, Yang Cheng had already removed a piece of plastic under the steering wheel, and he was fiddling with something inside. After Mo Qianyi had some psychological preparation, she wasn't too surprised this time. She asked with a little confusion, "What are you doing now? Can you start the car like that?" "Nonsense." Yang Cheng rolled his eyes at her and fiddled with the wiring in the car. "I don't have a key, so of course, I have to use a special method." As soon as he finished speaking, the dashboard of the Lexus suddenly lit up, and then the engine roared, and the car started. Ignoring Mo Qianyi's surprised expression, Yang Cheng skillfully adjusted the seat and was ready to leave. "Wait." Mo Qianyi thought of something and reminded him, "There must be a lot of people watching outside the villa. Even if the mountain road is some distance away from the villa, if we drive out, the car's headlights will definitely let people see us." "You're smart." Yang Cheng touched Mo Qianyi's nose with appreciation, and the latter blushed again. "Then how do we get out? Who said we have to turn on the lights when driving at night?" "Are you?" Ignoring Mo Qianyi's looking at a psycho expression, Yang Cheng laughed and turned off the headlights. The whole car was as dark as it was in the day. Then, Yang Cheng put the car into gear, and the car smoothly left the parking lot and began to drive towards the outer road. Mo Qianyi saw that it was pitch black in front of her, and it was difficult to see the road 3 meters away. When she thought about how Yang Cheng was driving down the mountain to Jinzhewan, she was so shocked that she wanted to jump out of the car. Are you crazy? If you drive like this, you'll rush down the mountain." Yang Cheng glanced at her in the dark and said, "If you believe me, then sit there and don't talk. Although I promise to take you to Jinzhewan, you have to listen to everything I say. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I won't knock you out and throw you in the back seat." As soon as this was said, Mo Qianyi immediately shut up. She grumbled a few words, but she could only put on her seatbelt and didn't say anything. The black Lexus didn't have any lights, and it was like a ghost in the middle of the night, speeding down the dark mountain road, but its speed wasn't slow at all. Coincidentally, there were very few cars on a mountain road at this time, so this car that didn't have its lights on didn't cause too much of a commotion. There were only occasional cars passing by, and the driver thought that he had made a mistake. Gradually, Mo Qianyi realized that her previous worries were unnecessary, because Yang Cheng was driving a black car without lights, and he didn't have any problems identifying the road. It was as if it wasn't night, but day. At the same time as she was relieved, Chinny thought of another question. Hey, Yang Chung, do you know the way to Jinzaiwan? Yes. How do you know? Isn't this your first time in Hong Kong? Remember, listen to me in the future. Even if you say 10 sentences, 11 sentences are all lies. There's only 10 sentences in total. How could there be 11 lies? It's fine if you don't tell me. Chinny said sullenly. 10 out of 10, 1 out of 10. You don't even understand the math. As the two of them chatted, the car had already driven down the mountain. Yang Chung naturally turned on the headlights. After all, at this time, it wouldn't arouse anyone's suspicion. It wasn't until they reached the small road to Jinzaiwan that the surrounding traffic gradually lessened, that Yang Chung returned to driving with the headlights off. Not long after, there was only one car driving towards Jinzaiwan. Yang Chung smiled. Seems like I'm not late. The one in front should be Li Muhua. Chinny had already changed from panic and fear to excitement and novelty. This kind of secret tailing made her experience a different kind of life, but as they slowly reached Jinzaiwan, she started to worry about the safety of the two of them. She couldn't help but ask, how are we going to get there later? Are we going to deliver the money with Li Muhua? Silly girl, if I wanted to deliver the money with Li Muhua, why would I secretly follow him with the lights off and not let him discover me? Being called silly girl again, Chinny wasn't angry. She only felt that the relationship between the two of them was much closer now. She smiled sweetly and didn't say anything. Chapter 155. 5 minutes later, they followed Li Muhua's black BMW and entered the port of Jinza Bay. Along the vast port, there were containers and various parked trucks everywhere. There were only a few cargo ships and fishing boats by the sea. The sound of the wind and waves was continuous, covering up the sound of the car engine. When Li Muhua's car stopped outside the warehouse in front, Yangcheng also stopped his car far away. Not long after, Li Muhua's lone figure got out of the car. He had driven here himself, dragging 2 large suitcases in his hands. If it was purely Huaxia dollars, it would be a huge sum of more than 20 million. He must have exchanged it for other currencies. Are we getting out of the car? Chinny asked softly. In the dark, the strong woman had turned into an obedient child, sticking close to Yangcheng. He was her only support. Yangcheng nodded. Just follow me. We'll follow behind him. As long as we maintain a certain distance and use the obstacles here as cover, he definitely won't be able to find us. We'll think of a way to get in when we reach the warehouse. Chinny naturally had no objections. After getting out of the car with Yangcheng, she used the nearest container as cover and slowly followed Li Muhua in the direction of the warehouse. The cold wind blew through their hair, and the spacious harbor seemed especially quiet. It was like a giant beast hibernating by the sea, making people shudder. At that moment, the only light in the harbor was the 3rd warehouse trading point that the criminals had mentioned earlier. That was also the warehouse closest to the sea. From the glass windows on the upper floor of the warehouse, they could see that the incandescent lights were still shining brightly. Chinny was wearing cotton slippers from the villa, so her voice was very soft, and it was much more convenient for her to walk. The two of them walked quietly until they were a few dozen meters away from the warehouse. They saw Li Muhua push open the metal door of the 3rd warehouse and disappear inside. Are we going in too? Chinny asked quietly. Yangcheng didn't answer. Instead, he held onto one of her hands and walked towards the side door of the warehouse with steady steps. There was an outdoor staircase that led directly to the 2nd floor of the warehouse. After Li Muhua walked into the 3rd warehouse, there were only a few stacks of goods in front of her. These goods were just waste products that could not be transported out of the port. They were left there for the time being, and when the port became busy again, they would naturally be removed. The entire warehouse was filled with a damp and cold wind, as if there was no one around. Li Muhua let go of the suitcase in her hands and looked around. She shouted, I'm Li Muhua from Muyun. I brought the money. After he shouted, waves of echoes came from the warehouse. It took a long time for it to calm down. Just as Li Muhua was frowning and wondering if there was anyone there, 4 figures walked out from behind a pile of goods. The man in the lead was wearing a checkered shirt and a leather trench coat. He had a cigar in his mouth and a pair of black leather flip-flops on his feet. He squinted his eyes and looked at Li Muhua with interest. When Li Muhua saw the person, she was immediately moved. Her face alternated between white and red. How? The person who walked out was none other than Li Muhua's brother, Li Muqing. Li Muqing was accompanied by Li Meng, Li Deshan's personal bodyguard and attendant, who was deeply trusted by the Li family. The other two bodyguards in black suits and sunglasses were obviously from Li Muqing's team of bodyguards. Why are you surprised? My dear brother. Li Muqing's eyes flashed with malice. He held the cigar with 2 fingers and asked with a cold smile. Li Muhua staggered 2 steps back. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness, confusion, and pain. She asked, "Brother, why did you do this?" "Why? Haha. Li Muhua, you're still asking me why?" Li Muqing laughed wildly. He suddenly threw the cigar in his hand in front of Li Muhua and roared, "Stop pretending to be kind and righteous. I've had enough of your hypocritical face. Do you think I'm that stupid? Do you think I'll be like that brainless old man and think you're a kind person?" Li Muhua looked at him blankly as if she didn't know what Li Muqing was talking about. Li Muqing raised his head and laughed while panting. "Are you pretending to be stupid? I don't care. You can pretend if you want. After tonight, you'll say goodbye to this world. But don't worry, I'll take care of the family. I'll help you take care of the company and the property." "Brother, are you doing this for the company and the property?" Li Muhua looked at him in disbelief. "I've never thought of taking the family's property for myself. I've been persuading Dad to give you a chance to participate in the company. Since I took charge of the company, I've never been short of your annual bonus. Why did you lie to me? You lied to Dad. You even used blackmail and bombs to lure me here. Enough. Shut up, damn it." Li Muqing rushed a few steps forward and pointed at Li Muhua's nose. "You think I don't know? 3 years ago, when the old man gave me funds to invest, if you hadn't bribed my subordinates and made him change the terms of the negotiations, I wouldn't have suffered such a huge loss. Also, every time my private investment shows a slight improvement, there will immediately be a powerful unknown opponent messing up my investment. You think I don't know that person is actually you?" Li Muhua wanted to explain, but Li Muqing obviously didn't want to hear it. He turned around and continued. "This time, Miyun has teamed up with Zhonghai's Yulei and Chonglin for a new material project. It's such an important project, but you and that old fart didn't reveal any information to me. Isn't it just to give you a few more gold, so that you can take all the credit for it, so that you can legitimately take over the family? Don't even think about it. Since you don't treat me as a member of the Li family anymore, then don't blame me for being ruthless and taking the initiative to obtain some capital to survive. No, bro, this is a confidentiality agreement. After the project is done." "Shut up. I told you to shut up." Li Muqing turned around with a ferocious expression. "Do you think I'm an idiot? That's right. You all think I'm an idiot, a good-for-nothing idiot. You all look down on me. You think I don't know that the enemy is Zhonghai's Su family. Even if I don't rely on you, I know who my main competitor is this time. I can still do well without you." Li Muhua slowly calmed down from the initial shock and asked with difficulty, "So, you single-handedly planned tonight's assassination, tonight's biochemical bomb, tonight's extortion?" "That's right. Of course, I also have to thank the old man for sending Li Meng to me." Li Muqing smiled as he walked to the tall Li Meng and patted his shoulder. "Li Meng obviously knows right from wrong better than you guys. With him helping me with the planning and execution, the plan was perfect. Thank you for the compliment, young master." Li Meng nodded at Li Muqing expressionlessly. Li Muqing continued, "Originally, I planned to let the representatives of Yulei and Chonglin die in the villa to stop this collaboration. Unfortunately, they didn't die, but it doesn't matter. As long as you're dead, I can still achieve my goal more directly." Li Muhua's face turned pale. "Bro, I'm your biological brother. Are you really going to kill me?" No. Li Muqing shook his finger and grinned. "I'm not going to kill you. How could I bear to kill such an adorable brother? The ones who killed you are the criminals. After they shot you, they escaped on a boat. We were in the villa the entire night. Everyone saw with their own eyes that I, Li Muqing, went back to my room and was dragged back after I was scared. With that, The smile on Li Muqing's face instantly disappeared. The murderous intent in his eyes intensified, and he waved his hand. "Kill him, Li Ming." "Yes, young master." Li Ming took out the MP5 assault pistol hidden in his pocket without hesitation. He opened the safety, raised his hand, and aimed. The pitch-black muzzle was pressed against Li Muqing's temple. Chapter 156. The moment the cold and solid muzzle touched his temple, Li Muqing thought he was hallucinating. When he slowly turned his head to look at Li Ming, who was closest to him, Li Muqing saw an imperceptible sneer on the man's sharp face. It wasn't an illusion. The muzzle was really pointed at his head. It wasn't Li Muhua's head. Li Muqing's face was a little twisted as he gritted his teeth and asked, "Li Ming, what's wrong with you? I told you to kill that guy, not to point the muzzle at me." "I'm not crazy. The order I received was to kill Li Muqing, not Li Muhua." Li Ming grinned, revealing his teeth that were black from smoking. Just as Li Muqing was in a daze, Li Muhua suddenly coughed twice. "My dear brother, thank you so much for cooperating with me in directing this wonderful movie." Li Muqing suddenly turned around and looked at Li Muhua's face again. There wasn't even a hint of panic and pain on her face. She was completely smiling, as if she had a card up her sleeve. Then, the two bodyguards who were originally standing next to Li Muqing also walked straight to Li Muhua's back and changed the person they were protecting without saying a word. It was like a bolt out of the blue. Li Muqing's legs almost gave way, and he staggered a few steps back before he regained his senses. He shook his head in disbelief. "No, impossible. You guys are... As you can see, Li Ming and your bodyguard are my people." Li Muhua's smile was even brighter, just like the usual modest gentleman. "My dear brother, did you really think that you could design such a perfect setup? If I didn't send Li Ming to cooperate with you, how could you follow my steps and come this far?" Li Muqing swallowed his saliva, and his body started to tremble. Cold sweat soaked through his clothes. He gradually understood that all of this was a setup that Li Muhua had planned a few years ago. It was just that the veil was completely unveiled today. Even Li Muhua's panicked expression was just an act for him to see. He was fooling around with him. He had always thought that victory was in his grasp. But from the beginning, it had all been an illusion. His enemies had been watching him like he was a clown. The cruelty of reality almost made Li Muqing forget to breathe. Li Muhua tidied up his well-ironed suit, and his handsome face was full of a calm smile. He walked to Li Muqing and said, "What a pity. In the past few years, you've been pretending to be crazy and trying to find ways to seize the company and family property. You must have had a hard time. You bastard." Her words were like a sharp knife stabbing into Li Muqing's heart, causing his eyes to turn red. He let out a hysterical and hoarse shout and suddenly got up, wanting to pounce on Li Muhua and beat her up. However, before Li Muqing could touch Li Muhua, he was suddenly kicked in the face by Li Muhua. Roar! Li Muqing was kicked so hard that he flipped in the air. Dizzy and unable to get up, he rolled on the ground and cried out in pain. "Dear brother, did you forget that we learned Taekwondo together when we were young? It's a pity that you've never beaten me, so you gave up later. But I persisted in learning until now. I'm a black belt now. What about you? I guess you've forgotten how to fight. Look, you've never been better than me since young. It's normal for you to be like this today." Li Muhua sighed. Li Muqing was devastated. All the schemes that he had painstakingly designed, and he thought success was at hand. He didn't expect that everything that he was proud of was just a mirage set up by his opponent. It was like a person who had painstakingly climbed up to the ideal heaven, but the people around him cruelly told him that he had climbed in the wrong direction. This wasn't heaven, but hell. Li Muqing's usual joking and roguish look was no longer there. The arrogance just now had also dissipated. What was left was a lifeless heart and a pair of lifeless eyes. "Actually, you're not that stupid. Yes, your investment 3 years ago was my doing, but so what? You can only guess. No one can provide you with evidence. For the past few years, you've been pretending to be a fool, trying to make me relax my guard against you. But you've underestimated my patience." Li Muhua said as she paced back and forth. "Li Ming is someone I planted in the family when I was in college. He first worked by my father's side, and then my father let him follow you. But from the beginning to the end, Li Meng only listens to me. So, there's no point in pretending to be crazy. I've heard and remembered every word you said to Li Meng. All your investments and schemes are within my grasp. Moreover, I was the one who told Li Meng many of the schemes that Li Meng helped you with. You, Li Mucheng pointed at Li Muhua with a trembling finger. You devil, you're a devil, I'm not a devil. I'm just better at setting up schemes than you. Of course, this also means that I'm more suitable to take over Mu Yun and the Li family than you are. Li Muhua said faintly. Do you know, actually, apart from Li Meng, 80% of the people around my father were arranged by me. So, even if my father didn't let Li Meng follow you back then, another Li Meng would have appeared. Your chances of winning are slim to none. As for you wanting to find your own helper, it'll be even easier for me to arrange it for you. Li Mucheng finally realized the gap between him and this brother whom he had always hated. The only thing he could think of at this moment was whether he could survive. So he asked tentatively, "What do you want to do to me now?" "Do what?" Li Muhua laughed as if he had heard the funniest question. "What do you want to do?" "Of course, I want to do what you originally wanted to do to me." You want to kill me?" Li Mucheng was so frightened that he crawled backward on the ground. His whole body was trembling. Li Muhua looked at him disdainfully. What a coward. A person who doesn't dare to face failure isn't worthy of playing games with me. I can tell you very clearly that you must die. After you die, I can push this matter onto the Su family. That way, Yulei and Chonglin will definitely stand on our side and become enemies with the Su family of Zhonghai. Only then will our alliance be stable. So, dear brother, I'm not here to give you money today. I'm here to send you off. Li Mucheng felt the cold, murderous intent in Li Muhua's eyes. He felt that his life was hanging by a thread. Instinctively, he screamed and jumped up, wanted to run in the opposite direction. Li Muhua walked to Li Meng's side unhurriedly. He reached out to Li Meng, and the latter directly handed him a gun. You better not be a human in your next life. You're more suited to be a stupid pig. Li Muhua raised her hand and pulled the trigger in the direction of Li Mucheng's fleeing silhouette. Bang! Sparks flew from the muzzle of the gun, and the bullet arced through the air. Blood spurted out of Li Mucheng's lonely fleeing back, and he fell to the cement floor not far away, causing dust to fly up. Clang, 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 clang. Suddenly, a steel pipe fell from the second floor of the warehouse and landed on the ground on the first floor. It rolled over and made a metallic sound. Who's up there? Li Muhua, Li Meng, and the other two bodyguards simultaneously realized that there was someone else there. They raised their heads and looked in the direction of the falling steel pipe. On the narrow staircase of the second floor, Yang Cheng half-hugged Mo Chinny, who was trembling in fear and sighed helplessly. The two of them had seen everything that had happened down there until Li Muhua fired the shot. Mo Chinny, who had seen a murder scene for the first time, was too frightened. She accidentally moved her foot too much and kicked a discarded steel pipe in front of her. Only then did they expose their whereabouts. That, Li Lao Air, don't be nervous, it's us. Yang Cheng greeted Li Muhua, then pulled Mo Chinny's hand and looked for the stairs to go downstairs. No matter how strong Mo Chinny was, she was still a woman. Seeing such a scene of brothers fighting secretly and seeing such a bloody shooting scene, she was momentarily stunned. She let Yang Cheng pull her downstairs. Li Muhua squinted her eyes, and a complicated light flashed in her eyes. Mr. Yang, Miss Mo, can you explain why you are here? Li Muhua was not in a hurry. At first, she was panicking, but she immediately calmed down. Yang Cheng naturally half-hid Mo Chinny behind him. He stopped when he was 10 meters away from Li Muhua and the others. He smiled amiably and said, I'm worried about your safety. You're a good person, bringing us to eat and play. I can't just watch you get killed by the bad guys, right? So I followed you here. Li Meng, who was behind Li Muhua, snorted coldly. Second Master, these two people must have seen everything. We can't let them live. Li Muhua frowned, and her eyes gradually became cold. Mr. Yang, thank you for your kindness, but it seems that you have seen something you shouldn't have seen. This. Yang Cheng touched his nose and said embarrassedly, How about we discuss this? I really don't want to ruin our relationship. After all, we still have to cooperate with you. Moreover, this is also your family's business. We won't interfere with your internal affairs. How about Miss M.O. and I pretend that we didn't see anything, and you guys can continue according to the script before we appeared. Do what you should do, and we can still laugh and play everywhere. What do you think? Haha, Li Muhua laughed. Mr. Yang is really humorous. You saw it, you saw it. How can you pretend that it didn't happen? In this world, only the dead can keep a secret. Hearing that Li Muhua wanted to kill the two of them so bluntly, Emo Chinni, who had been hiding behind Yang Cheng, was no longer afraid. As if it aroused the pride in the bottom of a woman's heart, she stood up with a flushed face and scolded. Li Muhua, you're a crazy hypocrite who killed your own brother. You don't even have the face to admit it. You won't have a good ending. Chapter 157. Hearing Emo Chinni's words, Li Muhua's face showed some anger. She stared straight at Emo Chinni and said in a deep voice, Miss Emo, please watch your words. I'm the victim tonight. It was Li Mucheng who wanted to murder me. Unfortunately, Li Meng and the others suddenly came and turned the situation around. I'm innocent. Innocent? Do you think our eyes are blind and our ears are deaf? You're more shameless than Li Mucheng. You're even more inhuman. Emo Chinni sneered. Li Muhua's face became more and more ugly. She frowned deeply, and the veins on her forehead were already visible. Yang Cheng touched his face gloomily. Why is this woman so agitated? Let's talk this out. Isn't it just a fight for money and property in a big family? This is just like the war between Huaxia in ancient times. It's the same no matter who wins. They're fighting for the same piece of meat. What's there to talk about? It's none of my business. I originally planned to solve the current situation peacefully, but after what Emo Chinni said, it's obviously impossible. Miss Emo, I'm really disappointed that you would say that about me. Li Muhua loosened her brows and revealed a bitter smile. Although I know it's a little sudden to say this, in fact, I've thought about it before. Through this cooperation with Ulay International, I can become friends with Miss Emo. Then, I'll look for opportunities to develop further. Li Muhua's words not only stunned Emo Chinni, but also Yang Cheng. What does this mean? A confession to Emo Chinni? What a pity. I didn't expect Miss Emo to see this scene today. It seems like my dream is going to be shattered, Li Muhua said regretfully. Emo Chinni bit her lips. Li Muhua, don't make such an expression anymore. You having such thoughts about me will only make me feel disgusted. Miss Emo, do you know that before I decided whether to invite Ulay International to join us, I looked through your information in detail. As for Ulay's CEO Lin Ruoshi and Miss Emo Chinni, they were the two that attracted me the most. It can be said that the reason why I decided to invite Ulay International to join us is largely because I hope to reach a certain relationship with one of the two beautiful ladies, Li Muhua said frankly. As soon as these words came out, Yang Cheng was unhappy. This oldie was not kind. He wanted to help him hide this matter and pretend that it didn't happen, but this guy was actually coveting his wife. How could he tolerate this? However, although General Lin is the future partner of my dreams in terms of appearance, ability, talent, cultivation, and so on, General Lin's personality is destined to not be a good wife that I hope for. So, I have always hoped to have a chance to have a deeper development with Miss Emo. Li Muhua continued. Unfortunately, the heavens don't fulfill one's wish. I didn't think that under such a situation tonight, I would say these words from my heart. It seems that we are destined to not be together in this life. Yang Cheng couldn't listen anymore. Oldie was too thick-skinned. Why did it seem like a woman who didn't follow him would be at a disadvantage? Didn't you see me standing here? I say, Old Li, don't pretend here. Go do what you should do. Listening to you makes me sick. Yang Cheng waved at Li Muhua and pulled Emo Chinni to leave. But after a few steps, the tall Li Meng suddenly stood in front of the two and blocked their way. You can't leave today, Li Meng said. Yang Cheng frowned, glanced at Li Meng, and turned to ask Li Muhua, Old Li, are you sure you want to turn against me? I can only say that I'm sorry, Mr. Yang. Since the two of you came here tonight, then you can only accompany my poor brother in death. I believe that the death of the two of you should also promote the alliance between our three companies. When we deal with the Su family, we can be more firm. Li Muhua's eyes turned cold as he lightly said. Yang Cheng sighed, patted Mo Chinny's small hand that was slightly trembling due to nervousness, and gave her a reassuring look. He smiled and said to Li Muhua, "Do you know why I came here?" Why? This was actually the question that Li Muhua had been thinking about. Why did Yangqing come? How did Yangqing come? He couldn't understand it all. Because I want to confirm whether my guess is correct. Guess. Li Muhua became more and more confused. Yangqing nodded and let go of Mo Chinny's hand. He walked in front of Li Muhua and said, "I've guessed before that these so-called assassinations, bombs, and extortion incidents were all planned by you." Li Muhua sneered. "Mr. Yang, seeing that you won't be alive for long, I'd like to hear how you came up with such a magical guess. You don't believe me? I believe that this arrangement is impeccable." Li Muhua proudly said. Countless successes made this young CEO incomparably confident. Yang Cheng shook his head, took out a cigarette from his pants pocket, and lit it for himself. His movements were slow. The poor quality tobacco emitted a pungent smell, which made Li Muhua, who grew up in the upper class of society, subconsciously take a step back. Yang Cheng enjoyed a puff, and said embarrassedly, "If I don't take a puff, I can't explain it clearly. I'm all ears." Li Muhua only treated it as the last cigarette for the condemned. Since things had come to this point, Yang Cheng and Mo Chinny were fish on the chopping board, and he was not in a hurry to slaughter them. Let's start from the first time I met your brother, Li Mucheng. I remember that the reason why he went into the box crying was that Miss Tina, the daughter of Earl Scott, had returned to England to marry someone else after finishing her studies, so she chose to break up with Li Mucheng. Is there anything suspicious about this? Li Meng asked. Of course, I don't think that a British noble lady who still has a title would like a man who cried like a child. And how could such a man get the favor of a socialite who had to go back to England to marry him? Li Muhua said disapprovingly, "We don't know Miss Scott, and no one can guarantee that a noble lady wouldn't like a man like my brother. So I tested him to see if your elder brother was pretending to be a fool," Yang Chun said with a smile. Test. At the casino, Yang Chun flicked the ash off his cigarette and continued, "I took the initiative to make a bet with him and even used our Miss M.O. as a gambling stake to tempt him. I looked at his reaction. Although he looked surprised, his eyes were calm, just like an ancient spring, unperturbed by the waves. This meant that he wasn't a pervert, and the reason why he provoked Miss M.O. was probably an act. After that, I compared the number of points on the dice with him. Forgive me for being blunt, but his skill in shaking the dice was very clumsy. The reason I said it was clumsy was because anyone who knew how to shake the dice could easily tell the number of points when I was guessing. I kept looking at Li Mucheng's eyes. I knew the answer was small, but I said big first. At that moment, I clearly felt the disdain in Li Mucheng's eyes. Why would he be disdainful? Because he knew very well that the number was small. At that moment, I determined that his IQ in gambling wasn't low, at least higher than ordinary people, which meant that he wasn't stupid. However, when I immediately changed my words and said small, Li Mucheng deliberately said that he was an expert and that he knew it was big. This went against his conscience. Why? Because he was pretending. He purposely made people think that he didn't have any gambling skills and that it was all luck, and he guessed wrong. At this point, Li Muhua and the three bodyguards had a thoughtful look on their faces, and the way they looked at Yang Cheng also changed. Especially Li Muhua. He was watching everything that Yang Cheng said, but he didn't realize that Yang Cheng had been testing him. At first, when Mo Chinny heard that Yang Cheng used her as a bet with Li Mucheng, she was still angry, but gradually, she was convinced by Yang Cheng's analysis and reasoning. Her pair of beautiful eyes fixed on the man in front of her. Even if she was in the tiger's mouth, she completely forgot about it. Why would a person deliberately show his stupidity, and greed to the people around him? I think the biggest possibility is to show weakness. As for who to show weakness to, it must be to those who are hostile to him. Yang Cheng looked at Li Muhua and said, "I clearly remember that your old man, Li Deshen, said that the money that Li Mucheng invested 3 years ago was all lost. I don't believe that such a shrewd and intelligent person can't even do the simplest investment well. Even if he didn't make a profit, at least he wouldn't make a loss. The greatest possibility was that his enemy had gone against him. Then, he deliberately showed weakness because he wanted to hide his strength and bide his time. Li Muhua's eyes were full of killing intent. He realized that the man in front of him must be killed. These are all your guesses, Mr. Yang. There is no substantial evidence. There is indeed no evidence, but there is a huge flaw that makes me think that this series of events is a huge conspiracy. Chapter 158. Loophole. Li Muhua's eyes flashed with doubt. At that moment, Li Meng and the two bodyguards were a little anxious. Li Meng urged, "Second master, this guy's brain works faster than the wheels of a car. It's better to kill him quickly and feed him to the fishes." "No," Li Muhua said. "I'm very interested to know what loophole Mr. Yang is talking about. Rather than saying it's a loophole, it's more like something that doesn't make sense." Yang Cheng thought for a while and said, "It was less than 10 minutes before and after we received the so-called criminal's phone call. During this time, Li Muching actually ran out of the room and found out about the criminal planting the biochemical bomb. If he's really a good-for-nothing who only knows how to eat, drink, and have fun, how would he know about such a confidential matter? And who would tell him about it? Even among the management of the villa, only a few people knew about it. In order to not cause panic, they even blocked the news. Then, who would tell Li Mucheng, who seems so useless to everyone, about this series of events? And it was reported in such a timely manner. Aren't you afraid that he won't be able to control his big mouth and cause trouble? This is indeed illogical. But because of this, shouldn't Mr. Yang be suspicious of my brother and not me?" Li Muhua asked. "It's exactly the opposite." Yang Cheng smiled. "It's such an obvious loophole that even I, as an outsider, can see it and have my doubts. As a member of the Li family, you actually don't have any doubts and are so certain that everything has something to do with the Su family. I'm puzzled. Since you're the most outstanding heir of the Li family and the CEO of Muyun, how can you be more stupid than your brother who pretends to be crazy? In the end, there's only one explanation, and that is that you're also pretending to be stupid. However, you're pretending to be stupid in a different way. You're pretending to be stupid. On the surface, you're kind to everyone. You love and respect your brother, and you're even more filial to your father. But isn't this another form of disguise?" Li Muhua was finally moved. This series of analysis was meticulously linked. Although there was no substantial evidence, if she thought about it this way, her loophole was too obvious. However, this man was able to discover her long-planned plan from these clues. It was really unimaginable. Mo Qianyi was also frightened by Yang Cheng's words. She also experienced these things personally, but she didn't have any doubts at all. Of course, she wouldn't think that she was stupid. She could only say that Yang Cheng's observation was too terrifying. When she thought that the man she liked had such a side, Mo Qianyi's heart was filled with joy. But now, the two seem to have reached a dead end. Forget it, to be able to die with him doesn't seem too bad. Women are emotional. Mo Qianyi's heart no longer felt too bitter when she thought of this. Forget it. Yang Cheng waved his hand. I don't dare to be friends with someone who can even kill his own brother. I have said too much. Both of you will die tonight. These words are meaningless. Li Muhua thought that she could kill Yang Cheng here, and her heart was at ease. It seems like I've said too much. The two of you are going to die tonight. These words are meaningless. Li Muhua felt much more at ease when she thought that she could kill Yang Cheng here. Seeing that Li Muhua had no intention to speak again, Li Meng, who had been holding the gun in his hand, showed a smirk and said to Yang Cheng, "Goodbye, Mr. Yang." Miss Mo, seeing that Li Muhua no longer had the intention to speak, Li Meng, who had been holding the gun in his hand, revealed an evil smile and said to Yang Cheng, "Goodbye, Mr. Yang. Miss Mo, I suggest you don't shoot. I don't want to kill in front of a woman." Yang Cheng was a little unhappy. If it weren't for Mo Qianyi beside him, he would have torn this guy who pointed a gun at him in half. "Idiot, do you think I, Li Meng, am scared?" Li Meng said with contempt. After that, Li Meng did not hesitate to pull the trigger. Bang! The gunshots sounded again, but this time, no one fell. Li Meng's pupils instantly dilated. He slowly lowered his head in disbelief, not knowing when Yang Cheng had moved in front of Li Meng. A steel-like hand was strangling Li Meng's neck. Yang Cheng's eyes were like a dead gray area. There was no life in them. His eyes were unfocused. I also want to tell you, I don't scare people. I only kill. As soon as Yang Cheng's deep voice fell, the hand that was strangling Li Meng's throat suddenly tightened. Crack! Li Meng did not have time to react and resist. His fragile throat was pierced by Yang Cheng's finger. Yang Cheng pulled with all his might, and a mass of bloody organs was ripped out from Li Meng's throat. Emo Chini could not stand the bloody stimulation. After a scream, she fainted and fell to the ground. Li Muhua and the two bodyguards, who were about to leave, suddenly turned around. What they saw was Li Meng's arteries spurting blood. His eyes were filled with anger and unwillingness as he fell to the ground. As if he had done something insignificant, Yang Cheng waved his left hand and flung the bloody organ to the ground. However, the blood had already dyed half of his body red and splashed on his face. Raising his head under the pair of gray eyes, Yang Cheng's mouth curled into an excited arc. Li Lao, air. Do you like this way of dying? Do you want to experience it? As he said that, Yang Cheng's red tongue licked the corner of his lips. He sucked the blood that splashed on his mouth. I swear to God, Li Muhua is definitely not a coward. To be able to come up with such a series of crazy plans, it was obvious that he was much braver than the average person. But at that moment, seeing Yang Cheng's action of tearing Li Meng's neck out, Li Muhua felt his stomach begin to twitch. A wave of fear that came from the depths of his bones invaded his heart. Fire! Fire! Kill! Kill this madman! Li Muhua, who realized that the situation was not right, did not forget to command the two bodyguards, who were also frightened and motionless. The two bodyguards were already scared out of their wits by such a bloody scene. Like robots, they pulled out their guns and began to pull the trigger at Yang Cheng. Bang, bang, bang. A series of bullets flew past Yang Cheng, but almost none of the bullets were accurate. The bodyguards' hands were trembling, and the bullets were flying everywhere. Yang Cheng did not care at all. Step by step, he slowly approached Li Muhua. It was as if every bullet was within his exquisite calculations and was perfectly dodged. The bodyguards' Rolock pistols only had 8 bullets. After they finished firing, they continuously pulled the trigger, only letting out a kacha-kacha sound of an empty magazine. At that moment, Yang Cheng, who had a strange smile on his face, had already walked less than 2 meters away. The two bodyguards were dumbfounded. They really could not figure out how someone could dodge bullets. Don't come over, the two bodyguards screamed. At that moment, they could no longer care about protecting Li Muhua. They turned around and quickly ran away. But how could Yang Cheng let them do as they wished? His figure flashed, and he had already passed Li Muhua. His two hands suddenly grabbed the back of the two bodyguards' lapels. The quality of the black suits that the bodyguards wore was excellent. Under Yang Cheng's violent pulling, they were not torn. Instead, they forcefully dragged the two bodyguards back. Where do you want to go? Yang Cheng asked as if he was talking to himself. Before the two bodyguards who were pulling their clothes had time to struggle, they felt their bodies flying in the air. Li Muhua, who was at the back, saw it clearly. He saw that Yang Cheng easily grabbed the two bodyguards, one in each hand, and used the reaction force of their escape to lift them back. The two bodyguards with strong physiques were like little toys. They were thrown into the air, drew a high arc, and then fell hard on the concrete floor. The intense shock caused the two of them to spit out a mouthful of blood, and they immediately fainted, half dead. Li Muhua was stunned. As a Taekwondo black belt, he was absolutely at a professional level in fighting. Even the most powerful Taekwondo master in the world, Li Muhua did not think that he could do what Yang Cheng did just now. That was not the speed and strength that a human could achieve. That was a monster. You don't come over. Li Muhua was afraid. He began to retreat. He was holding a gun in his hand, but he did not have the courage to aim at Yang Cheng. Even if his shooting skills were top-notch, the only thing he could think of at that moment was how to escape. Yang Cheng wiped the blood on his face and looked at Li Muhua as if he was examining his prey. Why, Didn't you say that you wanted to say goodbye to me and let me leave this world? Why didn't you shoot? Li Muhua swallowed his saliva. He did not speak and continued to retreat. However, because he was not careful, Li Muhua's heel touched the dead body of Li Meng. Ah! Li Muhua screamed and fell to the ground. In front of him was the ground that was dyed red with Li Meng's blood. Yang Cheng approached slowly and looked at Li Muhua with a smile. Li Muhua's muscles began to spasm. His limbs were stiff as he slowly moved backward. But soon, he did not even have the courage to move. There had never been a person who could make Li Muhua feel so desperate. It was the gaze of a lion facing a rabbit. Your life, your death, all in a moment's time. Li Muhua was not a rabbit. In fact, in the eyes of others, he might be a lion. However, at that moment, he painfully realized that it was not that he was too weak, but that his opponent's strength had exceeded the scope of his understanding. Yang Cheng slowly squatted down. He looked at Li Muhua, who was frozen in front of him. His face was pale, and he did not have the demeanor of a young CEO that was usually in high spirits. Do you think that I should kill you? I'll keep you alive. I beg you, don't kill me, Li Muhua said from the bottom of his heart. Yang Cheng raised his eyebrows. Are you so sure that I would dare to kill you? You're the heir of the Li family, the boss of Muyun. No, you're someone who can do anything. I know that you're not afraid of killing me. Li Muhua was about to cry. He had to muster up all his courage to speak. Yang Cheng thought for a while and said with a smile, How about this? Aren't we here to negotiate with you? I've looked at the contents of the negotiation. Regarding the profit sharing of this cooperation, since the Li family provided the most important technology, you'll get 50%. I think that's a little too much. Upon hearing that there was hope for survival, Li Muhua immediately became confident. He said carefully, Yes, it's too much. Mr. Yang, how much do you intend to ask for Yulei? You can ask for as much as you want. As long as I'm alive, money is nothing. Yang Cheng did not say anything. He grinned and gave a playful smile. However, in Li Muhua's eyes, such a smile was no different from the smile of a devil. Chapter 159. The morning sun shone into the antique guest room of Twilight Villa. On the palm bed, decorated with carved paulownia wood, under the thin quilt, Imo Chinny leaned against a soft white pillow, sleeping soundly and breathing evenly. Under the faint light, her exquisite facial features appeared particularly beautiful and curvaceous. She was like a sleeping imperial concubine, revealing a languid and delicate aura. At this time, the door was suddenly slowly pushed open. Yang Cheng, who had changed into a black suit and dark red tie, walked in with a plate of hot breakfast. Putting the porridge and a few exquisite side dishes on the bedside cabinet, Yang Cheng stood up, looked down at the woman who still had her eyes closed, and smiled helplessly. Hey, we have business to talk about today. Don't you want to get up? Imo Chinny's curved eyelashes trembled slightly, and her face was red. Finally, she couldn't stand Yang Cheng's direct gaze, opened her eyes, and silently sat up on the bed. How did you know I woke up early? When I entered the door, your body clearly trembled a bit. You're still not good at pretending to be asleep. Yang Cheng teased. So, sorry. Imo Chinny's eyelashes drooped, and she couldn't speak. Yang Cheng indifferently said, Don't blame yourself. As long as it's a normal person, seeing the scene last night, they wouldn't be able to stand it, and they would feel fear. If you didn't feel anything at all, then I would suspect that you're a female demon, or maybe even a murderer. Yesterday, what happened after that? Imo Chinny asked in a low voice. Seeing the scene of Yang Cheng killing people, Imo Chinny fainted, and in the end, she didn't even know how she returned to the villa. After she woke up this morning, she had been in a state of panic. At this moment, apart from the fatal, mysterious temptation of that man, she also felt afraid. So when Yang Cheng entered the door, she didn't dare to open her eyes immediately. Yang Cheng pulled a chair over and sat down. He crossed his legs and said in a low voice, After my discussion with Li Muhua agreed to exchange 40% of Muyun's profits for his life. In other words, in addition to our original 25%, Yulei will get 65% of the profits. Huh? Mo Chinny raised her head in surprise, her pretty face filled with disbelief. 65%. Isn't that? This number is also... She knew the economic benefits of this collaboration. If that was the case, Yulei's future development would be unprecedentedly strong. Isn't it good? At least Li Muhua's life is spared, Yang Cheng said with a smile. Mo Chinny looked at Yang Cheng with a complicated expression. This man always did things that made people's hearts tremble. In the end, as if gathering her courage, she asked, "Then what about the others? Are you talking about the 2 bodyguards?" Yang Cheng said calmly, "They were killed. Their existence will only be a hindrance. Moreover, Li Muhua was the one who shot them. After what happened yesterday, the conclusion given to the police was that Li Muching was the mastermind, and Li Muhua acted in self-defense and killed them in the end. Most of the salaries of the Hong Kong police officers are paid by the Li family every year, so this is just a formality. As for the 2 of us, we've never appeared, so you can rest assured." Mo Chinny was silent for a while, then asked worriedly, "Aren't you afraid that Li Muhua will go back on his word?" Yang Cheng said with a relaxed smile, "I have confidence in myself, and I also have confidence in Li Muhua's rationality. You should be very clear about the consequences if he goes back on his word. He can't win against me, so he will definitely choose to spend money to avoid disaster." Mo Chinny forced a smile. "You always give people a kind of blind confidence, but you are right every time. This is the aura of a man." Yang Cheng winked at her. After that, both of them had nothing to say. Yang Cheng really didn't want to explain anything, and Mo Chinny's mind was in a mess. In the end, Yang Chen noticed that Mo Chinny revealed a pained and struggling expression and sighed in understanding. "You don't have to force yourself. Nothing actually happened between us. You don't have any responsibility to think of ways to absolve me. As you saw last night, I'm a person who is proficient in killing people. When I kill people, I don't even blink. I won't explain to you why I killed people, and I won't tell you what I did in the past. I can only tell you that everything you see is true. I only don't want to tell you, and I don't want to hide anything from you." Mo Chinny raised her head and looked at Yang Chen's calm gaze. She suddenly felt that the man who was sitting so close to her suddenly started to move further away from her. The intimacy that she had cultivated last night once again vanished like smoke in thin air. Her heart was in pain, and this was even worse than letting her die immediately. He was so natural, so free and easy, and his smile was so relaxed, as if there was nothing that he was reluctant to leave. However, Mo Chinny felt a deep loneliness. The haze that condensed in this man's bones was like a poison that constantly tortured people. "Yang Cheng, can you stretch out your left hand?" Mo Chinny pursed her red lips and said softly. Yang Cheng was puzzled, but without hesitation, he stretched out his left hand. Mo Chinny stretched out her soft hands and slowly held onto Yang Cheng's left hand. Her delicate fingers rubbed against the slightly rough skin, itchy and smooth. "Last night, you used this hand to take Li Meng away, right?" Yang Cheng was silent. "Yes, this hand, last night, took away Li Meng's life and held onto a large amount of organs and flesh from Li Meng's throat. And in the past few years, this hand was stained with fresh blood. The blood that seeped deep into his bones made Yang Cheng occasionally feel that the bones of his hand had already been dyed bright red. Suddenly, Mo Chinny lowered her face, and those 2 thin lips kissed the palm of Yang Cheng's left hand. The cold and soft touch made Yang Cheng's whole body quiver. This action that could not be any more gentle was like a powerful heavy hammer, smashing onto Yang Cheng's heart. She kissed his hand. This hand that brought her fear of death. This hand that scared her to the point of fainting. This hand that took away countless fresh lives. This hand that was stained with countless sins. This evil hand that was shrouded in darkness. The woman's kiss was not a holy light that could expel the rotten and evil, but it was a warm current that was hard to refuse, slowly flowing into Yang Cheng's tightly shut heart, seeping in, nourishing. The smile on Yang Cheng's face gradually disappeared and was replaced with a confused look. Why? Shouldn't she be afraid, fearful, disgusted, and like too many people in the past, run far away from him or pretend to be respectful and keep a distance. Why did she have to kiss the bloodiest of sins? After Mo Chinny finished kissing Yang Chung, she breathed in the palm of his hand, then slowly raised her head and said with a tender smile, "The smell of oil. It's not hygienic to wash your hands after eating." "Why?" Yang Chung ignored the woman's joke and directly asked. Mo Chinny calmly smiled, leaned over, and reached out to stroke Yang Cheng's face, her beautiful eyes full of tenderness. "I like you, Yang Chung. Although I don't know when it started, and we've only known each other for such a short time, I just like you. Although you always make me angry, although you always ignore me, although you're always perverted, although you're my sister's husband, I just like you. I don't care who you were before, I don't care what your identity is now, and I don't care what you'll be like in the future. I just want to say, the person I like is a man named Yang Chung. He will help me out when I'm helpless. He will chat with me when I'm lonely. He will protect me from harm when I'm in danger. The person I like is... The owner of this hand is you." Yang Chung didn't believe in any religion, didn't believe in any gods, but at this moment, if there really was a creator, then he really wanted to thank the creator for creating women. Women, what an enchanting creature it was. Originally, he thought that after seeing a corner of his true face, this woman would no longer be intimate with him and would gradually move away from him or even avoid him, although his strong mind could ignore this. But dripping water could wear away a stone, and pain could always corrode his tired mind. But unexpectedly, the result was Yang Chung lowered his head and blinked. When he raised his head again, he revealed a sunny smile. "Little Chanchian, I've decided to call you this from now on." After a series of confessions, Mo Chinny seemed to have collapsed. When she heard this form of address, she spat and gave him a coquettish look, so mushy. But in her heart, it was warm and sweet. "This is nothing. I'll give you a little more mushy." Yang Chung smiled evilly and suddenly reached out to hug Mo Chinny's soft body, hugged her tightly, and kissed Mo Chinny's rosy lips. Woo! Mo Chinny was shocked and had no time to react. She loosened her teeth, allowing Yang Cheng's nimble tongue to enter her warm mouth, and began to stir up trouble. Because it was the first time they kissed, Mo Chinny was very passive. Her delicate tongue was teased until there was no place to hide. Gradually, the man's heavy breathing and wild kisses made her lost in a strong fire of love. After a long time, Yang Chung, who had tasted the beauty's exquisite nectar in his arms, reluctantly let go. At this moment, Mo Chinny's charming face was crimson red, and she was panting. Her full lips were a little red and swollen, and her pair of watery eyes were infinitely seductive, like an abyss that tempted people to commit crimes, making it difficult for them to extricate themselves. Yang Chun looked at the woman in his arms, who was at his mercy, and felt a surge of heat in his dantian. However, he knew that it wasn't the right time, and could only suppress his desire with great difficulty. He stretched out his hand and spanked Mo Chinny's plump buttocks a few times. Her bouncy buttocks were extremely meaty. "Little Chanchian, you wouldn't want me to push you down right now, right?" Only then did Mo Chinny recover a little. Her eyes were filled with panic, and she immediately broke free from Yang Cheng's arms. She covered her shy face and hurriedly ran to the bathroom with her bare feet. Soon, the sound of water flowing came from the bathroom. It seemed that Mo Chinny finally remembered that today was the official day for business, and she was busy taking a shower and dressing up. Yang Chung comfortably leaned against the back of the chair, turned his head, and looked at the charming morning scenery outside the floor-to-ceiling window, and smiled happily. Chapter 160. The internal turmoil in the Li family didn't spread too far. Although Li Deshen fainted because of this, fortunately, Li Muhua was at the helm. Everything seemed to be in order, and everything was still going on. The bomb scare in the villa was also completely resolved under Li Muhua's wise guidance. Everyone admired Li Muhua very much. Li Muhua, on the other hand, couldn't say anything. Thinking of that man's horrifying smile, he felt worse than death, a whole 65% profit, giving it away just like that. Although he was extremely unwilling, Li Muhua, who had walked on the line between life and death, didn't dare to take the risk of provoking that man who couldn't even be hit by bullets. At 10 o'clock in the morning, in the conference hall of Twilight Villa, Li Muhua pretended to be calm as he shook hands with Lu Tao, Yang Cheng, and Mo Qianni. Under the attention of many senior executives of Muyun Group, they finished discussing the details of the cooperation. As for the division of profits, it wasn't decided at this meeting. They had to wait until after the visit to the research room, so it didn't cause too much of an impact. Yang Cheng and Mo Qianni were different from Lu Tao. They could feel the fear that Li Muhua felt when he saw Yang Cheng. They smiled without saying a word. After successfully finishing the morning work, they had a sumptuous lunch together at noon. However, this time, Chairman Li Deshin was already on a 4-drip. His health was very poor after the death of his eldest son, so he couldn't be present. So, Li Muhua was in charge of everything. Everyone understood that after this incident, Li Muhua had completely replaced Li Deshin and become the real master of the Li family and Muyun Group. In the CEO's office on the top floor of Zhonghaiyu Late International Tower, Lin Ruoshi sat on the leather chair, as usual, concentrating on the various documents and reports that were submitted in the morning. These kinds of data were usually ignored by some managers who were more practical. However, Lin Ruoshi, who had become the CEO of a listed company at a young age, was very clear that no matter how charismatic a person was or how skillful he was at management, if he didn't understand the detailed data, he wouldn't be able to truly be a senior manager. Therefore, she would never reject such complicated data. After a while, Lin Ruoshi raised her head and looked at the time on the computer screen. It was almost 11 in the morning. Yesterday, after Yang Cheng and Mo Qianni went to Hong Kong together, he didn't call her for 3 consecutive days, which made Lin Ruoshi a little upset. They must be very leisurely. Under the Li family's hospitality, there must be plenty of food, drink, and entertainment. Especially that thick-skinned guy. Maybe he want to flirt with other women again. Maybe after a while, he would forget about his duties. Thud thud. Someone knocked on the office door. Only Wu Yu, the secretary, would do so. Come in. Lin Ruoshi retracted her flickering gaze and resumed the demeanor of a CEO. Wu Yu, who was wearing a black business suit, walked into the office with a serious expression. General Lin, something happened in Hong Kong. Lin Ruoshi felt her heartstrings tighten, but she didn't show it. She asked calmly, what happened? The director of the Hong Kong branch just called this morning. The night before yesterday, Department Head Mo and Yang Cheng were assassinated by the Su family. Later, the Li family had internal strife, and the eldest son of the Li family, Li Mucheng, planted a biochemical bomb in the villa. Fortunately, Li Muhua turned the tide. Nothing happened to Department Head Mo and Yang Cheng. The Li family has been keeping this matter under wraps for 3 days. We only found out about it through the police this morning. After Wu Yu finished reporting, Lin Ruoshi still didn't respond. After a long time, she nodded and said, got it. You can leave now. Wu Yu seemed to be used to Lin Ruoshi's cold attitude towards everything, so she quietly left. When the office door closed, Lin Ruoshi immediately grabbed the phone on the desk. Just as she was about to pick it up and dial a number, she paused. Should she call them? Ask them how they're doing? What's the point? It's been 3 days since such a big thing happened, but they didn't tell me about it in time. It's not like they're on the other side of the world. There's no time zone for overseas calls. I'm still worried about them, but they don't care about me at all. When she thought about this, Lin Ruoshi's worry turned into resentment. She took a deep breath and hung up the phone. Yang Cheng, who didn't know that his wife at home was gnashing her teeth in hatred, was yawning at the moment. He sat in the Mercedes-Benz that Li Muhua had arranged for him and headed in the direction of Muyun's Research Institute. Mo Qianni, who was beside him, wore a fitted white business suit that showed off her beautiful figure. At that moment, the woman was holding a pile of technical documents and looking at them seriously. Little Qian, these technical documents are for the researchers to look at. Why are you looking at them? Yang Cheng asked, puzzled. Although the two of them had already made their feelings clear, Mo Qianni didn't show too much intimacy. Her rational self knew very well that as long as Yang Cheng and Lin Ruoshi were still husband and wife, she couldn't be with Yang Cheng without any qualms. Even if they liked each other, they could only do it in secret. She didn't want to give up on Yang Cheng, but she also didn't want to become enemies with her good sister. When she heard Yang Cheng's mushy way of addressing her, Mo Chinny couldn't help but blush. She rolled her eyes at him and said softly, "I'm going to die. The driver in front is so embarrassed if he hears you. What can you do about my liking?" I'm just bored." Yang Cheng smiled and reached out a hand. Suddenly, from the side, he reached into the gap of Mo Chinny's short skirt and quickly touched her plump and supple thighs. The thighs that were wrapped in the nude-colored stockings were smooth and smooth. It felt so good to the touch that Yang Cheng couldn't help but pinch them. Mo Chinny was so shocked that she immediately put down the pile of documents and pressed down on Yang Cheng's mischievous hand with both hands to stop him from reaching inside. Don't do this. It'll be so embarrassing if someone finds out," Mo Chinny pleaded. Her face was red. "Just look at it. I'll just put my hand here. Don't be nervous." Yang Cheng also looked like he wasn't going to back down. Mo Chinny was helpless. She could only let Yang Cheng place his hand between her thighs. She picked up the documents and continued to pretend to look at them. However, her mind was elsewhere. Half an hour later, the motorcade arrived at the Research Institute of Muyun Corporation. The Research Institute was built on the hillside. It was surrounded by dense trees and was well hidden. However, the main purpose was to be away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It was more suitable for development and research. The periphery was filled with the Li family's private guards in camouflage uniforms. Obviously, there were guns hidden in their bulging waists. They just didn't show it openly. In a place like Hong Kong, it was almost impossible for a big family to gain a foothold without a background in the underworld. The Li family was obviously one of the examples. They just didn't show it usually. Under Li Muhua's lead, Yang Cheng, Mo Chinny, and Lu Tao all entered the strictly monitored research institute. After entering the hall, they went through a full-body cleaning and disinfection. Then, they put on special protective suits before entering the research institute. Inside the bright research institute, there were many researchers in protective suits. When they walked past them, some of them knew Li Muhua. They simply nodded and greeted her without saying much. Li Muhua, on the other hand, was very kind and respectful. He smiled at these researchers. Obviously, these researchers were all hired by the Li family with a lot of money. Their only task was to develop all kinds of new products. As for who the boss was, they didn't care much. When they were about to enter the main research institute, Li Muhua explained, "Professor Li Guangxuan is my uncle. He ranks 4th in our family. I usually call him 4th uncle. He's a bit cold, so please don't mind him." Lu Tao had already walked out of the shadow of that night. He was smiling again. "Don't worry, Mr. Li. Scientists are always different from ordinary people. We understand." When the automatic door of the laboratory opened, everyone saw that the laboratory was densely packed with all kinds of utensils, pipes, and colorful chemicals were placed everywhere. They were all strange things that they could not name. Seeing Li Muhua come in with his people, a young man wearing glasses walked up and asked, "Are you President Li Muhua?" "Yes, my 4th uncle." "Is Professor Li Guangxuan here?" Li Muhua was puzzled. He had already told Li Guangxuan that he would take the guests to see the results. The young man said directly, "The teacher's teacher is here. He is chatting with the teacher's teacher in the small laboratory inside. He asked us not to disturb him and asked President Li to wait for him outside." The young man spoke quickly. After that, he immediately threw himself into his research work. Li Muhua was stunned for a while. He turned around and said to the others awkwardly, "I'm sorry. Although I'm a little confused about what's going on, since my 4th uncle asked us to wait for him, I have to trouble you 3. Because he had seen Li Muhua's true colors, Mo Chinny had not been nice to him these days. At this moment, he replied coldly, "The whole family is not normal." Li Muhua pretended not to hear it. He smiled and said nothing. "President Li, the young man just said that Professor Li Guangxuan's teacher is here. Professor Li Guangxuan can develop such a magical new material. Then his teacher, is he?" Lu Tao, who had a sharp mind, did not miss the details. He immediately responded to a new tempting idea. Li Muhua was also stunned. It seemed to make sense. He had heard from Li Guangxuan that Li Guangxuan's doctoral supervisor was a very famous scholar in the world. He didn't know much about him at that time, but now he had the opportunity to meet him. How could he not seize the opportunity to get close to him? A supervisor who could teach a high-end talent like Li Guangxuan. His value is not just higher than Li Guangxuan's. Yang Chen was rather curious as well. In the past decade or so, he had met many high-end talents from various industries. Among these people, a large portion of them had very unique personalities. In other words, their abnormal thinking and logic would cause their actions to be particularly unconventional. Dealing with these people could often lead to some deep thinking that could not be realized in ordinary times. After waiting in the big laboratory for more than 10 minutes, the door of the small laboratory not far away finally opened. The first person who came out was a middle-aged man in a white coat. He had gray hair and a dull face. But on the man's face, there was an excited and slightly morbid smile. Needless to say, he was the owner of the research institute and the technology provider of this cooperation, Li Guangxuan. After that, a figure came out. But the four people present were stunned for a moment. Chapter 161. This was a Western woman with Irish chestnut wavy hair. She was tall and curvy. Lavender eyeshadow, rosy thin lips, lazy and bright eyes. Her fingertips were marked with black nail polish. Her skin was not very white, and it looked like cream under the light. It was a very punk outfit, but strangely, she was wearing a tight cheongsam embroidered with dark purple orchid totem, exuding a strong Huaxia style. At first glance, it was somewhat nondescript. The cultural impact of the East and the West was quite intense. However, when you looked at her again, you could find that she had perfectly blended the two extreme cultures, the alternative and the classical. She used the unique perspective of a Western woman to interpret the charm pursued by Huaxia women. There was no doubt that whether it was Li Muhua, Lu Tao, or even Imo Qianni, as a woman, as a beauty, they couldn't help but have a thought in their mind, so beautiful. However, the one who was the most shocked was Yang Cheng. How could it be her? The corners of Yang Chen's mouth curled into a smile that seemed to contain infinite meaning. It seemed bitter, happy, and doubtful at the same time. But no matter what, the woman had already seen Yang Chen. She first revealed a shocked expression, but then quickly gave him a flirtatious look. "Uncle, this is..." Li Muhua, who had the identity of the host, came forward and asked Li Guangxuan with a gentleman's modest smile. Li Guangxuan's voice was a bit sharp. Seeing that Li Muhua, his junior and employer, didn't look too good, he proudly introduced, "This is my supervisor when I was studying in the UK. She happened to come to Hong Kong today. I invited her to review my achievements over the years and give me some advice." To be honest, Li Guangxuan looked like a man in his 40s, but this Western woman was only in her early 20s. It was incredible that she was his doctoral supervisor. "I know that this beautiful lady is your mentor. Can you introduce her in detail?" Li Muhua asked unhurriedly, but her eyes moved to the Caucasian beauty. A perfect smile appeared on the corner of the woman's mouth, and she suddenly said in fluent Chinese, "Hello, everyone. My name is Jane Christina Arthur Elizabeth Mountbatten von Windsor Alexander. This is my full name. If you don't mind, I prefer to be called Jane." Jane? One word, a name so simple that it could not be ignored. However, her long full name was something that could not be ignored. The names of Westerners came from all sorts of backgrounds, especially England, which used to be an empire where the sun never set. The aristocratic tradition made their names represent noble bloodlines. Whether it was Arthur, Elizabeth, Mountbatten, or Alexander in this name, they were all names used by nobles who symbolized power and glory. Of course, many commoners would also use these middle names, but it was obvious that the woman in front of him was definitely not a simple commoner. None of the people present were illiterate. When they heard such a name, they immediately understood how complicated and mysterious Jane's background was. It was even likely that she had some hidden noble titles. "It's nice to meet you, Miss Jane." Li Muhua extended his hand to Jane and revealed a bright male smile. Jane did not shake his hand. She smiled politely like a noble princess. "This must be the president of Muyun Group, Mr. Li Muhua. I'm sorry, It's not polite for a man to take the initiative to ask a woman to shake his hand, so I refuse. Such a direct refusal made Li Muhua a little embarrassed, but the people around didn't think that Jane was showing off. It was as if this was how Jane should be. Li Guangxuan frowned and said, Muhua, don't be rude to my teacher. Hurry up and get ready. We haven't welcomed the teacher yet. Oh, okay. Although Li Muhua was a little unhappy, he didn't show it. He ordered a follower and went to make the arrangements. Jane asked curiously, Lil Li, what do you mean by welcoming? Lil Li. This title was naturally for Li Guangxuan. Everyone looked at Li Guangxuan in surprise. They didn't expect Professor Li, who was over 40 years old, to be called Lil Li by his teacher, a foreigner. Li Guangxuan's face turned red, but he didn't dare to neglect and immediately replied, Sir, it means to treat the guest who just arrived to a good meal. Oh, welcome. I learned a new Chinese word, he. Jane seemed to be very happy. She laughed like a 17 or 18-year-old girl. She looked at Yang Cheng and others and asked, These are, Li Muhua immediately introduced. These are our allies in this business cooperation. Today I brought them to see the results of the new environmentally friendly materials in the laboratory to finalize the final contract. I didn't expect Miss Jane to come. Miss Jane is my uncle's teacher. I think you can give us some professional and academic advice. Jane looked at Yang Cheng with a puzzled look. She didn't seem to understand why this man suddenly became a member of the company's investigation team. Li Guangxuan saw that Jane didn't speak and thought his teacher was unhappy. He immediately said with dissatisfaction, Muhua, how can you ask the teacher for advice so casually? Do you know the identity of the teacher? Even if the Royal Academy of Sciences, the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, the Lincoln Laboratory of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the Imperial Laboratory of Germany, and those top universities wanted to invite the teacher to have a look, the teacher may not be willing to go. Do you think the teacher's advice can be given casually? Little Li, you're talking too much again. Jane squinted at Li Guangxuan. The outspoken Li Guangxuan immediately shut up and smiled at Jane with a flattering smile. Although they didn't know much about the world-famous scientific research institutions and laboratories mentioned by Li Guangxuan, everyone present knew that Jane was definitely a master who played an important role in the scientific community. It was hard to imagine that she was really a young girl. Lu Tao was also a little surprised. He was a little cultured and hesitated to ask, Miss Jane, are you a Nobel Prize winner? Jane smiled and shook her head. No, I have never won any award. My teacher has been the final judge for the Nobel Prize for 3 years in a row. Winning the prize is nothing. Li Guangxuan muttered again, as if the honor was won by him. This news was extremely shocking. It was said that the world's highest Nobel Prize was decided by this girl. Even someone as calm as Li Muhua, the CEO of a big family in a big company, felt a kind of awe for the young white woman who was unbelievably beautiful in front of him. He felt ashamed for the desire to get close to her that had just sprouted. His own net worth was probably nothing in her eyes. Miss Jane, if you have finished your trip here, why don't we go to the arranged restaurant? It is rare for you to come to Hong Kong and be received by us. Guests should be the priority. Li Muhua said with a smile and a cold sweat. Thank you, President Li, but I want to catch up with an old friend first. Jane's eyes glanced back to Yang Cheng's face. Emo Qianni, who was beside Yang Cheng, was also a woman. She was more sensitive. Since Jane appeared, she had always felt that Jane and Yang Cheng seemed to know each other, and their relationship was not ordinary. At this moment, she finally confirmed her thoughts. She really couldn't figure out why Yang Cheng would know such a woman with a perfect combination of beauty and wisdom. Vaguely, Emo Qianni felt a little sour in her heart. Although she was also an outstanding beauty, Jane in front of her, in addition to her elegant and charming appearance, had more of a noble temperament. This was not something that Emo Qianni, who was born in the grassroots, could compare with. Yang Cheng, who had been silent, finally attracted everyone's attention. Except for Li Muhua and Emo Qianni, almost everyone else in the lab could not believe that this ordinary young man was acquainted with such an extraordinary woman. Li Guangxuan was thinking hard, thinking that Yang Cheng was an expert in a certain field, and he didn't recognize him. Li Muhua couldn't stop the cold sweat all over her body. Her smile was more bitter than eating coptis. Sure enough, her choice to admit defeat was right. To be acquainted with a woman of this level, this Yang Cheng was definitely not an ordinary person. Yang Cheng saw Jane's beautiful sapphire blue eyes full of expectation. He sighed with emotion in his heart and nodded. Let's go out and find a quiet place to talk. After that, Yang Cheng took off the protective suit on his body and strode out first. Jane came in without wearing a protective suit, so she went out the door directly. This caused many people to think that they seemed to be people from another world. Li Muhua and others were somewhat at a loss, and Mo Chin's eyes were a little melancholy. Jane's sudden appearance made her feel powerless for the first time in her life. It seemed that there were many obstacles in front of her in addition to her good sister, Lin Ruoshi. Behind a research institute was a dense forest. In the forest, there was a small pavilion full of fallen leaves. There were usually no people, but at this moment, it became a good place for Yang Cheng and Jane to face each other. Standing in the corner of the pavilion and leaning against a pillar, Yang Cheng took out a cigarette and smoked it slowly. He lowered his head and seemed to be thinking about something. He didn't speak. Jane stood quietly in front of Yang Cheng at a distance of more than 2 meters. Her bright eyes looked straight at Yang Cheng. There was a smile containing excitement and joy on her face. She looked like she couldn't get enough of it. After a long time, Yang Cheng whispered, "Old friends, how are you?" "It's the same as before. Everyone's life is just missing your existence." Jane replied, "That's good." Yang Cheng nodded with relief. Jane was silent for a moment and asked, "Hades, are you really not going back?" Yang Cheng looked up. "Don't call me Hades. I'm using my real name now. You can call me Yang Cheng. By the way, I'm a male prostitute at Yulei International in Zhonghai. Now I'm an ordinary urban man." Jane's expression was very interesting. She was about to burst into laughter, but she forcibly restrained herself and clapped her hands. "Congratulations, Yang Cheng. Your transformation has finally succeeded." Yang Cheng couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, I've been back in Huaxia for more than half a year. Not only did I make some new friends, but I also got married and started a family. I can finally live a normal life." "You're married?" Jane's beautiful face instantly turned pale and pale.